And we are back. Couch Company Podcast. I'm John. With me, as always, Tyler.
Hey.
And we have a special guest. Super special guest. Tyler's cousin.
Yes.
Related by blood.
By blood.
Justin.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor.
I'm so excited you're here.
Buddy, I've been looking forward to this. And honestly, this is a first for you guys. This is the first time you have a ghost on the podcast.
A ghost?
You said I was dead.
That was Tyler's fault, dude.
I was dead,
that, bro?
I did get that text message like, yeah. I don't know what I was like. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You do not have to apologize.
I'm so happy you're alive.
It literally made my day. And then, Johnny, like, how sweet were you when, like, you were like, it got quiet and you're like, dude, like, he's alive. Like, that was a horrible thing to say.
Yeah. I was like worried for a second. I was like, bro, what? Something happened?
That's what we do, though. We talk and you don't, like, a lot of the time you're just already thinking like three things ahead. And in my mind, it's just like, he's rolling in his grave. And it's like, he's out of that grave.
It's funny because I actually like, I got kind of like mentioned on that. And I was like, well, Tyler's known me my whole life. Like, I've already had one foot in the grave like multiple times. I'm like, he's just kicking the other one in.
Yeah.
Just kicking it in there.
It's going to be tough.
But
What
dude,
were we even talking? Like, here's the thing. I don't even remember what we were talking about.
you were talking about like coffee and getting crap coffee, and you're like,
okay,
Justin would roll over in his grave.
Yeah, that's probably right.
It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if you know how that saying works, but the person
It's
has
not
to be dead
yeah,
for that to work.
I'm very happy you're well.
Buddy, so am I. And honestly, like, and it's like not a running joke per se, but like, Tyler's our guy. Like, he's our cousin. Like, shout out to Dave Thomas. But you're it. You're like our favorite. My mom, she loves you more than she loves me.
I do love your aunt. I unabashedly call her my favorite aunt, even though I have wonderful aunts. I just like, here's the thing, like your mom I see significantly more than anyone else. Like and it was the same thing with like our like grandparents. To me, I had like one set of grandparents. Like you had two. It's just like everyone else lives in Florida.
Yep.
You know? Like I just never see them. But
That's one thing I'll never complain about. I have the best family in the world.
Yep.
We'll never complain about that.
Yep.
That is huge and brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, well, John's big on the family thing.
Well, I am, dude. Anytime. Any movie, TV show, dude, like something happens to their parents, always cry, dude. Makes me like 100% of the time.
And I feel like that is slipping in today's society. Like some of the kids nowadays just don't appreciate their parents like at all.
Oh my gosh.
Or blame their parents for
Or blame
everything going wrong in their life. Yeah.
And it's frustrating. And, you know, like I said, I will never complain. I had the best parents I could ask for, best family. So you were part of that. Appreciate it.
There was one time that I wanted your mom to be my mom for a second where I'm like, I wish Aunt Becky was my mother. And it was because when she was explaining on how to do laundry, my mom, whenever you're doing laundry, I'm sorry, John, no, we weren't going to talk about this at all.
This is fantastic.
We're doing laundry and my mom would make me put it on the hanger, put it on the clothesline because we had clotheslines in the basement. And she would make me button every single button. And I would have to hang it a certain way that favored right-handed people. I'm left-handed. And your mom was like, just button the top button and let it go. And I'm like, thank you, adopt me. You know, just like, yes, exactly. I felt guilty afterwards, but that was when I was like, yeah, your mom's cool.
She's awesome, man. She is awesome.
Yeah.
This is our most wholesome episode ever.
Dude,
like 30 seconds in, I'm like just smiling. I will say it is super sweet when Tyler references you. He just gets like this huge grin, and he's like, "Justin will really like this one." I forget what you were saying. I think we were talking about Diablo or something, and we were talking about something, and you're like, "Justin will really like this coin or whatever."
Yeah,
and it was like, yeah.
Dude, he's the best.
As long as you don't. As long as you're not excited for a video game, I'm good.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were excited for, was it Diablo you was excited for? It was something that flopped.
I don't think it was Diablo.
I forget what it was.
Redfall.
That was it.
Redfall.
Yeah. He's like, Justin was hyping this up. He's like,
Redfall,
I knew it was
Anthem.
doomed.
Like, just
take your pick.
Just the laundry list.
I am the kiss of death.
Brink? You a big Brink guy?
No.
I don't think it.
No.
That was
the world's greatest scam. Does he know that story? How you and Nate scammed
He's the
everyone?
one who sold me on it because
you sold him on that too?
He did.
Oh.
Everybody. You
really sold your soul on that one, man.
We sold everybody to the point of GameStop corporate was like, oh, you have so many pre-orders, we're going to have you have a midnight launch. Me and your cousin just crushed it.
Yep. Yeah.
And then all the next day, we just had to apologize and refund and apologize and refund. Oh man. Yeah.
Like I wanted it to be good because back then, like my favorite things was like sparring and like playing with you. Right? Like that was it. Like playing online with you guys was like the best. And I never heard of Brink. And boy,
no one did.
There was like a switch because when I was like super young, I feel like Josh is really good with kids.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
So it's just like when I was really young,
Josh is
his brother,
Justin's
Josh,
brother.
yeah.
Yes.
So it would be like I'd be like hanging out with Josh. I would hang out with both of you.
Yep.
Typically, maybe Josh a little bit more. But then there's like once I like came of age, so to speak, that it was like almost like flipped where like we connected on like video games and like kind of like nerded out on certain things, and then So I don't know. You guys are my favorite people. So
whenever you mentioned that, I had to go back in my thought process and be like, what was the last game that I got hyped about that was actually good? Do you remember?
Oh, like hyped?
Yes. When I convinced you guys to get the game.
Buddy, I bought so many, and I let so many slide, to be honest, because like, no offense, you're like, hey, this is really good, bro. I'm like, cursed. Yeah, I'm just
rightfully so, because but there was one game.
Oh, you have it, you know?
Oh yeah.
What?
Fear 2. Do you remember when I got? I got everybody. Yeah. I'm like, guys,
Fear 2 was great.
Amazing.
Wait, was it 2 or 3? Did 3 come out?
2 was the one I think that had that wall of faces that went through the map that you had to beat.
Did they make a 3? Because I think it might have been 3.
I played them all, so if it was 3, then it might have been that one.
But I completely agree with you. The multiplayer was such a weird. Like you never played Fear.
What year is that? I'm like trying to think. That was a while ago, right?
2010. No, like 2000. So I was working at GameStop, I think. So it'd be like between 2007 and 2013.
Do you remember?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you remember like what was the show called? X Play or something?
No, was it?
It was on. It was like on. Oh my god, what is the channel called, dude? I used to watch the show all the time, and I think I remember them talking about like Fear 2 or 3 or something because it was like Game of the Year worthy, like nominee or something.
I would almost bet money that Fear 3 was the first one with multiplayer, and like all the modes were super distinct, and it was just really fun, like asymmetrical stuff, and you're just running and just trying to. There's just a wall chasing you, and it was almost like. I don't want to like draw the parallel to like a battle royale, but in a way, kind of, where it's just you have this death wall and you just have to keep going, don't fall behind as you're like shooting things and getting through things and stuff. And like somebody drops and you're like, do you go back and try to rescue them, or you just kind of go?
Yeah.
It was good, but yeah, that's. I mean,
so it's been a couple decades since
it's been a while.
Johnny, like when I don't know, John Carpenter is the one who they got involved, and they kept it completely silent until like a week before it came out. And they're like, "Hey, John Carpenter actually helped us with this video game,"
and that's when you knew.
I got so excited, man! I didn't sleep. I was so excited to play this game, and it actually paid off. But that was the only one. Like
he's one for a million.
Every other game was terrible, and I felt so bad. And like it got to the point where I'm like, I'm just not gonna. Even if I'm excited, I'm not gonna say anything.
I mean, we have Call of Duty coming out. We'll play that. You Armored Core guy? Did you play that way back?
I did, and I saw like it got good reviews, and it looked okay. I always go back to Call of Duty. It's just something I'm relatively decent at, and it's just something you pick up and be okay.
Yeah.
But no, like you guys play way more games than me, and I wish I had the time to, but I just don't.
We don't have lives. I get it. That's fine.
No.
Definitely not, bro.
You guys make content like this that get me through my workday, so yeah.
Hey,
you guys have a pass.
Means a lot.
Man, we're just really.
I will ask you this though. So Call of Duty. Have you always been a Call of Duty guy? So for a while now.
Yeah.
What is your favorite or some of your favorite titles?
That is such a good question. So when they rebooted it with Modern Warfare, that campaign was amazing, and I loved it. I loved the tactics behind it, and I mean,
you're talking the 2019 one,
correct?
2019, yeah.
And that's my favorite. And I know that's controversial.
Wow.
Exactly,
but that's interesting. It's not a bad pick though. I mean, that's a solid game.
That one board where it's the night and you go through that house, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
And I love that game.
That might be one of the best missions. Like there were like YouTube videos that I was watching where like Marines and stuff would like review that, and they're like, dude, this is pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Like this is crazy. That mission really stands out. That's an interesting pick, though. So you like that one better than the Modern Warfare 2, like of the new ones?
So I'm a graphics whore, and I've always I just am. And
is that where Tyler gets it, or
I think he's the one who kind of pushed it on me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I pushed it, but I'm very big on the frame rate and things like that. Like I'll forget. Yep. So here's the thing: I'll forgive a lot of graphics, and I'll do a lot more on like Dave the Diver style, like 8-bit. Whatever. Dave the Diver's not 8-bit, but you know what I mean, like pixelated stuff.
Yep.
Where you're looking for like high fidelity things like that. So a lot of the indie stuff, I would say maybe kind of like, unless it's a super special whatever, you kind of like let slide maybe. So I don't throw that on me. I'm just saying,
You're 100% correct, and that's what's not frustrating, but boy, I'm still waiting for like that next gen game to come out, and it just hasn't yet. Like not having 60 frames.
Yeah.
How do you not have 60 frames in like today's age? And that's a little frustrating. I thought like the new Xboxes, every game is going to be 4K 60. Like,
right.
That's just what it's going to be.
Right.
It hasn't been, Johnny.
No.
And I'm still waiting for that.
Dude, that's why I'm on PC, dude. Like literally Tyler ruined me when it came to that. I used to not care. I was happy with my 30 little frames, like just, chilling on my console. And then Tyler comes around. And you get everyone. Nate got it. It's my cousin's fault.
Nate
got everyone into PCs. Yeah,
and then my
cousin ruined
OCD
us.
got me into.
And when we saw how smooth and amazing it looked, it was over.
I remember when it clicked on me where Arkham City came out, and that was the first thing I got on PC. Though I was like, this is just. You had the physics where like you're kicking guys around and like all the papers are flying around Catwoman and stuff, and I'm just like, this is phenomenal. It was that, and then Borderlands 2 where you throw like, I don't know, like a black hole grenade and all the little debris around that just like dynamically pulled in. I'm like,
the physics in that game.
Yeah, you don't
sick.
See that on console.
Yeah.
But then going back, I'm like, there was a special time on Xbox where like 30 frames, I was totally fine with it.
Yep.
And it was just like, I was like a pig in mud. Like I just didn't know it better, and it was perfect.
Ignorance is bliss, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, like when we were rating, we did a top 5 consoles.
Yeah.
And Xbox 360 was our number one. And a big reason because of that is just we just have all these fond memories of just like Modern Warfare 2 with the boys. After like there are a few games like we've talked about this that like everyone had. Most recently, like Fortnite, for example, like when Fortnite was at its pinnacle, it's like everyone just had Fortnite. Like I knew people who were literally buying Xboxes.
Sure.
Were not gamers just to play Fortnite.
Yep.
But like back in the day, it was like Modern Warfare 2 or Call of Duty 4, right? Like the golden era, in my opinion, of Call of Duty, where it's like you go home, you get on Modern Warfare 2, and we were happy. 30 frames, it's like.
Yep.
But I actually think like I go back and look at those Call of Duties. I don't think they look bad because it's like
they're 60
specific style.
Yeah, but those were all 60 frames
back in the day.
Yeah, part of the reason why Call of Duty did so well was because it was just smooth,
super smooth,
right?
Yeah.
And it was solid. And then they try to keep bumping up the graphics, and then it's like it can't handle it. And then you get these
COD was
diffs
never
that
about the
didn't work.
graphics,
right? It was about the smooth gameplay. That was part. I don't know if you guys remember Rage, where that was with I forget what engine it was. It was id Tech 6 or something. But that was another one where like it just stood out. Like it wasn't a great game per se, like story wise and different things like that. But it ran at a flawless I don't say flawless, but like very smooth 60 frames. And people just weren't used to that. So when you put that on there, when you put Call of Duty on there, people would say, oh, this just looks better. They really didn't know what they were saying. It might not necessarily look better from a like graphical standpoint, but because it was so smooth and fluid, it was just, it felt like it was just better.
And it's a little frustrating. Like back in the day, you bought a game and it worked. You knew it was going to work.
Yep.
And I like, it's just very difficult for someone like me, and which is why I got out of building my own PC, because I did that. Oh my gosh, I think I did that before you started doing it. And it just got so frustrating. Mm-hmm. Nothing worked anyway. And then they started designing more for the consoles, and I get it. It's a marketing and business decision, and that makes sense. But boy, to like, okay, I have to update my drivers. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the wrong update. Go back and get an update from 3 years ago, and then it'll work.
Yeah.
And I just could not keep up, and with how busy I am with my profession and everything, that was it. Mm-hmm. And that's when I said, hey, okay, and I actually called you, Ty. It's like, this new Xbox, is it legit? Is it powerful? And you're like, yeah, man, it's a beast. Sweet. But they have all this power that they haven't unlocked yet. And I was telling John, like, when is it going to be 4K 60? That's the baseline.
The problem is, and Digital Foundry did a good job explaining that, where you're getting this trade-off where a lot of the games were 4K 60, but they were a lot of remasters and a lot of it wasn't next gen. It was like a cross-generational thing where, well, we're still giving this to Xbox One and PS4 and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's just like, we'll just bump up the specs. It still stays 4K 60 or like upscaled 4K or whatever, which I can't typically tell the difference with that. So like, fine, as long as it's 60, it's 60. But the problem is now you're getting into the era of Starfield that is trying to do more than what the console is necessarily capable of.
Sure.
And you have to start making those concessions. And for them, it's like, well, we'll just make it 30 and.
Yeah, and you get something like Cyberpunk too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like you're trying to have this huge world, and yeah, I think it is a trade-off. It kind of like makes me think about like old games like Spyro, right? And what did Insomniac do? Like, how did they make this balance? Like the PS1 was pretty powerful back in the day, but it's nothing compared to like today. And they had to use these creative techniques, like we talk about how they use the backdrop, like coloring and the different mountains and stuff to make this illusion of this huge world where it's actually like the playable space is not that large. And I think it's like maybe you have to kind of get back to a creative style like that, where you can really, like you're saying, Justin, utilize all the power of the console, where it's this illusion of a huge world, but it's actually manageable in terms of like the memory and capabilities of the hardware that you're playing on.
It's easy to talk through like, oh, Call of Duty has ray tracing. Cool. If I'm running from cover to cover as people are shooting me and I'm trying to not lose this for my team, do you think I really care if the shadow of this box is accurate or not?
When 10-year-olds are roasting.
Like it makes sense on a game like Dead Space, which I don't even know if Dead Space had ray tracing. I don't think it did. But it was just like, for those single player experiences or those like very creepy, like a Fear 4 or something. Sure. But Call of Duty is like, do you need that? Like HDR, doesn't really matter, but it's just like they have all these like checkboxes, all these bells and whistles that they kind of like throw in there. It's like, okay, but like, why? At the end of the day, like, why? Like,
yeah, like you said, Call of Duty was always amazing because of its smooth gameplay.
Right.
It had the best gun mechanics like in the whole space. I mean, that's what put them on the map, right?
It's before the battle passes and the DLCs and just like, how do you get people to keep coming back and play your game all year long until the next one, and how do you get them to continuously spend money? And it's just like, that's the business practice of publicly traded companies. I mean, that's how it is. So then it's just like if you have that ray tracing, it's going to really make that $20 skin look that much nicer in the trailers or whatever. Like it's just like, okay, well.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And like as far as Call of Duty is concerned, that's been the one game that consistently ran good at launch. And that's, I mean, not only am I a gun nut, which, like I shoot all the time, but, and I appreciated a lot of the times, especially when they used to get the gun rights where they could actually name them the right gun. That was amazing. And for someone like me, that I was all 100% on board with that. But boy, I feel like that's like one game out of all these other games that is going to work when you get it. And other than that, it's like, I still haven't played
Remnant.
I did play Remnant.
Oh yeah, you played it. Yeah,
it runs terrible.
Does it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm below 30 on a lot of it and whatever. But the Star Wars game.
Oh, the
Fallen Order,
Survivor,
or Jedi Survivor.
Thank you.
Survivor,
Yeah.
I was so excited for that, John, and I'm like, well, okay, settle down, Justin. Let's wait and see.
Right.
Of course, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Of course. And then at that point, it's like I'm so frustrated giving money to individual. You and I would get fired if we like, hey, we're going to give you this product, but by the way, it's like half done. It's 50% done. And it just bothers me. It just like inside, I'm like, I can't give these guys money for giving me a half-baked product. It just bothers me.
Right.
So it's like, well, do I want to buy it? I'm like, no, I'm not going to get it, which I didn't.
I mean, that's why, like, I know before we started recording, I was like saying, like, let's touch on Baldur's Gate, but like that's the thing that Baldur's Gate did, where it's like, hey, here's 200-hour plus game that like is so dense and so chock full. Like, it's true. Like, I really want you to play that game. Like,
So
it's
do
really,
I.
really good.
So do I.
It's fantastic.
it's so unique. But again, like you have the devs like, okay, well, don't get this isn't really a new high watermark. Like, don't get used to this. This isn't like they're trying to make all these excuses because like my boss won't let us make this game because there's no like, okay, well, how do you keep monetizing this? Like once we get the $60, $70 it is, how do you keep getting more money? Are you going to give them skins? Well, no, we thought we would just put all the armor and everything in the game. Is that cool? What? Like.
It's how it used to be, like Justin said,
well,
right?
You have look at Destiny, where they're making, and again, like it's not the devs, right? Like I think that's the thing is it's not the devs doing it. It's like it's the higher ups and stuff. But it's just like you have Destiny where they're just like, hey, we really can't keep churning out this content at this fast a pace, and blah blah blah, and everyone's just like, okay, like totally, we get that. But then why are you updating the store with new cosmetics like clockwork
when the game doesn't work?
Well, even if the game works, but like you're telling us you can't give us actual content, but boy, can you put a $20 skin out? And I don't know if it's true over there, but it's like Diablo, it's $25 for a skin, you know?
Yep.
And they had, oh my gosh, they're still getting their footing and stuff with just all the nerfs and buffs and different things like that. It's just like, it's crazy.
And that's so frustrating because that was one of the games I was I was so excited for that game.
Yeah.
Which one?
Diablo,
yeah.
And so pumped for it, ready to go. I started out as the barbarian, like I always do. and then they nerfed it. And Ty, you were still amazing with it. So I jumped ship probably too early, but I'm like, of course they did. But I wanted to try something different. So I'm like, Druid, let's go.
Yeah.
Get the Druid, really enjoyed it. And then, oh man, like I still get angry about this. In order to make the Druid work, there was two things you needed. One was like the great crone staff of whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. And then the other one was this helm that, like, they didn't give it to you.
Yeah, it was like a 1% drop or lower or something.
Yeah.
But every good build required one of those two. At first, it worked on me. I'm like, this is awesome. I got something to work for. I'm putting endless hours in. I'm staying up late, even though I have like a board meeting tomorrow. Don't care. And then it's like, okay, I'm level 50. Still didn't find it.
Yep.
Level 60. Still, what's going on here? 70. What? 80. And I quit at 85 when season 1 came out, and they lost me for life. They didn't give me one of those two drops where I could have progressed my character. Maddening.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that a lot of those unique ones too, it was around the 84, 85 mark that they would even start to drop. So like all your grinding that you're doing is essentially worthless, but they don't tell you that. I mean, they kind of do because they're like, know. Oh, you have like uber rares or whatever they want to call it, but it's just like that sort of thing. And it's funny because my barbarian, I got up to like 94 or something because I was like, I'm just going to give me 100 before the season. And I was going through it. And they buffed the nightmare dungeons. They did all this stuff. I'm just like, oh, sweet. I get extra XP here. It's like a smooth thing. I don't love just doing dungeon after dungeon like that. I felt it boring because it was kind of the same. But I was moving forward. And then they did that nerf that like I jump in and like suddenly my guy is just completely like he just dies just instantly. And it's like, what? Like, what do you do? So like, I don't have anything else. It's like, I'm not going to go backwards to like re-gear my guy to like now be like meta okay. And I was like, what are you doing? And then they were like, they just buffed all the XP for Nightmare Dungeons. They just buffed the XP for Trio Whisper stuff and all this stuff. And in this patch, they just take it all away. It's like, I just don't understand. And then the ironic thing is then I rolled a Druid, and I actually am having a lot of fun with the Druid. Like I'll get on maybe like I think we played maybe 2-3 times over the past like month or two.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like me and Harbin are playing Druids, and he's like this big buff chick, and I'm like this dude. We're just like running around just smashing things. Both bears where like your bear color is the color of your Druid's hair. So like my dude's like just this awesome. Like white hair, and he's like this redhead, and
that's
just
awesome.
Going around.
You're just a polar bear.
It's cool, but like man, is it just not compelling and not like we're going through the season pass, but like I didn't activate because I bought the ultimate $100 edition or whatever.
Yep.
I didn't activate the season pass. I'm gonna wait till like season 2, season 3 until they actually get their footing and like start making like content that I actually want to play.
Well, okay, I have two thoughts. One, I'm not a big Diablo guy, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but my like assumption of like the philosophy behind those types of games is like you should only buff things, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like why would you ever nerf anything? Because like my conception of what the game is supposed to be is just power scaling.
Numbers go up.
Numbers go up. So the numbers should never go down, right? Like, why would you nerf it? Like, oh, Barbarian's super strong. Fine, let's raise everything else up because you just want to feel like a god, right? Like that's how I assumed. Like, and of course you like you know want a challenging level or whatever, like a nightmare or whatever. But then you can just buff the enemy. You know what I mean? I don't understand why you nerf anything ever.
Which they did.
Well,
that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like they made
insane.
you weaker and bump the enemy.
How
up.
is that
So
fun?
it's like-
That's crazy to me.
It just didn't make sense to me, especially as like a casual player. It just didn't make sense to me, and they lost me. They lost me, and I'm
they
not,
killed power leveling. So let's say they make these decisions, and you're just like, hey, Tyler, I really want to like get back into it, but like I'm a level 1, you're a level like we're like 30 something. Can you like boost me to like that doesn't exist anymore. They effectively killed power leveling. So like
That's
before,
crazy.
you could just jump in my game.
That's what we did,
I'm
right?
level 90.
Like,
you're just flying through it like
you
4
were-
times XP.
You weren't that high, but he was much higher than me when I got the game, and we were just running through the campaign on a harder world tree.
Yeah.
And I was just getting a ton of XP and catching
all
up.
that is gone. So what it does now
That's
is it's
crazy.
like I think it's like 5 levels higher than you. So even if you're in there, once it hits that cap, you're
stuck.
That's all you get.
That's-
Like
wow.
tough.
I just don't get it. I don't understand why, but they paid the price. I mean, it dropped as far as people playing it, and
I would be actually very interested to see that because like we fell off hard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
once that season came out. Like, it
I was
just
looking
gone.
at the graph the other day. It's like huge drop, and then Baldur's Gate
Baldur's
is
Gate.
on top. And then the second weekend was higher than the first, which hasn't happened since like Elden Ring, I think.
It's. I mean, I attribute a lot of that to TikTok. I truly do.
That is
Like,
the perfect game for social media, right?
It is wild just how like you're just swiping through.
Yep.
And you see funny clips and like all these memes and stuff. I mean, that's like
'Cause-
half those books over there are TikTok inspired of like Brandon Sanderson is a very good writer. He makes these really cool worlds. And now social media is just really like blowing up and getting them out there. And now it's like cool to read again and stuff like that. But I would be interested to see if you would like Baldur's Gate, Justin. Like because do you ever play D&D?
no.
Yeah.
No.
Like this is very D&D, but in like a game form, and like I think the control scheme might get to you, but
It's
I don't know.
super dense too. It's like very classic RPG where it doesn't hold your hand at all. Like you have to figure things out.
And that's tough for someone like me. That's why I could never get into like the Dark Souls games. Like I just, man. And what was the most recent one?
Elden Ring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was excited for that because they're like, we're gonna make it a little bit less hard, so like the casual player can hop in. I had no idea.
That's such BS.
Yeah, no,
Dude,
right?
there was nothing to tell me what menu does what and all these different potions and how I can buy. I'm like, that was a waste of $60 back then, 60. And I played it, John. I probably played that for maybe 8 hours, and that was it. That was it. And
Hey, you're talking to the only podcast that doesn't like those games, so
I know
we get
and
it.
But Armored Core is made by the same people that made Elden Ring and everything.
That's
Just, I mean, we've said this a million times, Tyler, but just give us a choice.
Yeah.
If you want the super hardcore mode, absolutely, man. Like,
Berate
yes.
us. Be a
Yes.
Wolfenstein and give us a little pacifier in the little thing of like, oh, you're a little baby?
Yes.
Love it.
Little
Yes.
easy mode?
Yep.
Fine.
Yes.
Done. It's
I
way
love
more fun.
easy mode.
Yes.
I'm on board. Like, I used to be the hard mode guy, like when I was younger, but I don't have the time anymore. I want to see the story. I want to get through it. I want to feel good. And like the Star Wars game, the Jedi Survivor,
Yeah.
I played it on easy and I felt great because I'm a Jedi. I should be one-shotting people, right? It felt fantastic. So I agree with you. I think just give us the option, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And there's I don't know if you guys got into Warhammer. Did you guys get into that?
Big time.
This guy.
Okay.
Did, yeah.
So 40K or fantasy?
Which one's the one that's coming out?
Space Marines.
Yes.
Should be 40K.
So
40K.
then that's-
Yeah. Yep.
And that first one I fell in love with, and I don't know any of the
Oh,
lore.
Spaceman. Yeah. Yep.
But that game was so much fun to play.
Yeah.
And then when I mean, I'm sure you guys are way more on this than I am, but I saw the demo this morning as far as like what the second one's supposed to look like, and like It looked amazing.
It does look good.
Love it. Can't wait for that. So like games like that where you can just hop in, start to finish. You don't have to be an expert at learning how to combine 50 different spells and potions. And then if not, sorry, we're not going to tell you.
Right.
And you're just going to die.
Maybe Baldur's Gate 3 isn't for this guy.
That's honestly fear.
And it probably isn't, but that's okay. Just like you said, give me the option. Just give me the option, and they don't do that in a lot of these games. And
I feel like a great game, strikes that perfect balance of it's super accessible, but it also has that ceiling where, like, if you are a hardcore gamer, you can have those combos. You can bump up the difficulty to an insane level that's challenging and fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the balance you got to strike, right?
That's right. And maybe it's because I'm old. Okay, maybe honestly, John, maybe it's because I'm old. But I feel like back in the day, every game did a pretty good job of keeping you on board.
Yeah.
And I feel now, whether it's because it's broken or it's, the level of difficulty is just astronomical and I'm going to want to kill myself after 5 hours. It just feels like back in the day, every game did a really good job of bringing you on board and helping you through it. And I kind of miss that. As someone that's just a casual player, I kind of miss that.
Well, I think Call of Duty specifically did a great job. Of
Amazing
that, right?
job.
Like
Amazing
the campaigns were always super engaging, cinematic, exciting. And then, if you wanted to have that difficulty, like Veteran was hard.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially COD 4, dude. I mean, that was the worst.
To this day, that's my claim to fame. Just 100% of that game on Veteran. Like, I got the
I never
plane.
want to do that because,
yeah.
like, COD 4, it's so interesting. You go back and look at it. What was it called? There's these things called monster doors. So the way it spawned in enemies was there are certain points that you get to, and then the enemy stops spawning.
Yeah.
So you'd get endless waves of bad guys if you're just sitting behind cover and like trying to pick them off. You have to push forward. It was so difficult on Veteran because like one wrong step and you're gone.
Yep.
So like, but you could put it on a rookie, enjoy the campaign, just have a great time. It could be anyone. You know what I mean? Like, I thought they did it great. I mean,
absolutely.
Call of Duty's campaigns were always fantastic.
Really, really good. And with zombies coming out on...
Yep.
I know.
Zombies was great. Zombies could be in its own game.
It kind of was. I think they put that out there. It was like Black Ops 3 Zombies specifically.
Yeah.
Like, patched everything.
But isn't it crazy that it was like... it was World at War.
Yeah.
Was a great game. And you had zombies, which was... like, an explosion. And then you have Black Ops and then Black Ops. Like, it's crazy. Like, you had, and you talk about complete games. You didn't only have a great game in like Black Ops. You had zombies, which is like a totally different game. And that was what, $60 for the whole thing?
Yep.
Crazy.
Some of my best nights was playing zombies with my guys. Like, it was so much fun, just mindless, but we were
playing with Sean. And this was like the OG, like, it was like the hidden thing. This was before like zombies was a thing. It was just like, here's a broken down house. You just stay in a corner. And we're just going wave after wave after wave.
Oh, that was Dave Pytek.
Oh, was it Dave? Okay.
Because I still bring it up to this day.
It was just the three of us, and we're just sitting in the corner shooting things. We're just going to see how long, we all have ray guns and stuff. We'll see how long it goes. And then, I don't know what it is, like a 2x points thing where like we're so far in the game, points don't matter. And this is way before you like bought stuff. The only thing you did with points was like, I guess the mystery box, and that was it.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And Dave's like, guys, there's 2 points out there. And we're like, Dave, there's a wall. It's like, don't do it. And he's like, I'm going for it. He just like gets like, oh no, and then we died. But
to this
so
day,
much fun.
I still bring that up to him.
So
to this day, I'm like, dude, we didn't need the points, man.
Yep, we had a high score, I guess.
Remember, we got beyond the wave that the devs got, and we were so proud about that, but we couldn't go much further because Dave, it was like a kid seeing like a delicious candy bar. It's like, I got to get it. I'm like, dude, we don't need it. Audi would go.
There was as good as, we like, that's before, like, you can't upgrade things. You can't, it was just, if you got the ray gun, that was as good as you're going to get.
It was so simplistic.
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's what Call of Duty was like, here's your menu. It's 5-6 guns per class.
Yes.
And like, get 20 headshots, enjoy the red dot. Enjoy this camo.
Yep.
So then it was very clear, oh, this guy has red tiger camo. He's a crack shot.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now it's like I can't figure out. And granted, I'm a UX designer or whatever, but it's like I can't figure out these menus. I can't understand anything.
The menus
it's a terrible
are
system.
Super.
And we'll see what like Modern Warfare 3 does. But like Modern Warfare 3 now scares me because I'm actually pretty good at Modern Warfare 2. Like even jumping randomly back in, like I felt like I was doing great. So now I'm worried that like 3 is going to be back to like they're like, oh, slide canceling's back, and I'm like. Okay, cool. Like I don't even know.
Like
they took it out of Modern Warfare 2, and they took out like a bunch of stuff that they're now putting back in. That like people were, like the hardcore people were upset at Modern Warfare 2 that it took it out, but then all the newcomers were like, "This is way more accessible. I feel good."
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 3 is like, turns out that the hardcore people make us the most money, so we're just gonna flip that. So we'll see. I don't know.
And I know the time to kill is going to be increased quite a bit on that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh crap, because I don't play with mouse and keyboard, and I got pretty good with the controller. Just change a few settings and like I'm decent, but I'll get it because it's modern. It's Call of Duty, but I'm fearing I'm going to get absolutely destroyed by these kids now.
Weirdly enough, I'm more. I don't know about more, but like I'll say more. I'm more excited about the campaign. In seeing what they do with like the reboot type thing, and just like, okay, how does Makarov come into this, and how does everything work around, and like no Russian and all that stuff. Like, I don't know. I on one hand, I'm very excited for it. On the other hand, it's like you announced this 3 months before release or 4 or whatever. It's like that. It's just like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Man, when I think about like the golden era, dude, of Call of Duty, some of the best map design, ever.
I still think World at War. I still think Treyarch has better map design than Infinity War.
Really?
Yeah. I was thinking about this.
COD 4 was really good.
It was.
It's so simplistic.
To
Crash,
to an extent,
like
simplistic
Crash?
is good.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But World at War had a very specific knack of like Call of Duty 4, you could just hide in a corner more or less, and there's like, oh, this guy's camping here.
Yep.
World at War did a very good job. Like, no, everyone's always seeing you at
There's
some
line of
point.
sight,
It's bigger, and you had tanks in there and
Yeah.
stuff. And I don't know. I feel like Treyarch wasn't respected as much. And then once all the crap happened with like Infinity War guys getting fired and Titanfall and all that stuff, and then like Treyarch suddenly became like, oh, we're the good guys now, and then everyone loved Treyarch.
Right.
And like I guess Sledgehammer, whoever made Ghost was like then the pariah of Call of Duty.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
But whoever branched off and did that, Titanfall was amazing.
Titanfall is the best first person. I think Titanfall is. I will say I think Titanfall is better than Call of Duty 4.
Not according to our list.
I know, but and the reason why is because we didn't play Titanfall like we play Call of Duty 4. So a lot of that is nostalgia, and Call of Duty 4 is fantastic. But pound for pound in what they did and how it feels, Titanfall is, I think, an objectively better game than Call of Duty 4.
Titanfall is great. Yeah. That's a tough argument for me. I just think COD 4 changed the game forever.
100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like it was on the news and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy. It just totally changed everything. Like everyone had it.
And again, so was Fortnite and Mortal Kombat.
But I think Fortnite's a fantastic game.
Yeah. Don't say anything about Mortal Kombat because I want it to be good. By the way.
I didn't.
Oh, you're not doing Mortal Kombat?
I probably will. Honestly, I'm a little more excited for Tekken, but I don't.
Yeah. See, that's that. That's what I was saying. Like
was Tekken? You guys played Tekken as a kid? Because Tyler loves Tekken. Like what? Tekken 3?
It was
you guys?
Yeah, man.
That's
like,
amazing.
I was Brian Fury all the time, and like, dude, I haunted him. He had Brian Fury. Like, I haunted him with that character. And
I feel good about a lot of games. Like if we're like even Call of Duty. Like, and you're good at Call of Duty, but I'm like, I feel like I can beat him up on some things. But just fighting games, it's another.
Yes, I was decent. Mortal Kombat was actually all the Mortal Kombats I was pretty decent at.
Yeah.
I remember getting to like the parties where it was just your party and to rotate
Yeah.
There's times where I just threw it. I felt bad. It was Zach.
Yeah.
He would get so pissed off, John. And like I felt bad. and like I would like text Tyler, I'm like, I threw that. You know that, right? And he's like, yeah.
There's a serious drop off and stuff. And I love but
I feel like
when you watch this guy play, it's just like, man, like and I hope you wouldn't throw stuff with me, but it's there are a couple times where like I had a, like Baraka and Jax on Mortal Kombat, or like those are the two guys that I could like do stuff with, and I think I was like maybe Joker on the Injustice or something like that. But that was
interesting.
Yeah,
dude, your Jax was legit. You had a
Jax
good Jax.
was fun.
Yep.
I enjoyed him.
I feel like as a gamer, you have to like you have to be inaugurated by like your older cousin or brother just destroying you. Like everyone's had that moment.
Well, like
that they
for
just
sure.
get crushed.
When they told me they were hooking up PlayStation, and it was just like PlayStation. Like I thought it was like some weird like toy. Like I didn't know what a PlayStation was. I didn't know that was like the next generation of Super Nintendo or whatever. So then I was.
You were on a Dreamcast at this point, or
no. That was it would be N64. So it was like, do you get an N64 or do you get a PlayStation? And
Right.
These guys went with PlayStation, hooked it up, and I don't know if you actually bought Tekken originally or if it was like part of a demo disc or something like that. But they were playing it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is like next
legit.
level. This is like 3D. What's going on?"
Which Tekken was it?
Tekken 1.
Yeah, the
Tekken
original.
1.
Yep.
Wow.
And then by
so
the time
you've been there the whole time.
Well, I didn't have it. So by the time I got my PlayStation, it's crazy that this is all PlayStation 1. But by the time I got my PlayStation, Tekken 3 came out. And Tekken 3 is like, I still think that is the best Tekken. Like, but with the story, the characters, the feel, like it was just solid. It was really, really good. And I thought I was really good at it. And then fight this guy with Brian
Humbled.
Fury, and I just get
Humbled.
smoked.
But every other game,
it was good.
You're better than me. Like it's not even.
We play a lot of co-op stuff though. Like it's fun. I sometimes. So the last time we played co-op was I think Sniper Elite.
Yeah, like
That's a
good
great
game.
co-op game.
It is.
Yeah.
But I felt bad because I was like, I hope I am taking it serious, but I'm also trying to be like, I'm joking around. But it's like we're supposed to be like super stealthy and just like, I'm gonna hit the guy, and I miss, and I'm just bad at it. And like Justin's like very good at it, and like I'm just like, well, now the whole camp's coming after us. I'm just gonna go hide over here.
I don't know how to tell you this, boss.
Yeah, no, I felt bad about that. But like we would play zombies or the zombie army, which was super fun,
Really good, underrated.
And in the other one that was busted, I lost my character. What was you had like powers and stuff that we would play, and then I lost my character. So it's like we're destined to have these like really cool experiences that we maybe play like once or twice or whatever, and then either something bugs out or something doesn't work. Like I lost my save on Zombie Army, that didn't go over, and then we just it falls off it. Like Call of Duty is the constant, which is crazy, but like that's I don't know.
It's a great game, dude.
is.
I was just
It's gonna work.
You really need to play Bloons Tower Defense 6 is the.
Is that on it? Does Xbox
It's
have it?
not. It's on your phone.
You have an
It's on
iPad?
your phone or an iPad or something.
Sorry, boys.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's all right.
Brutal.
It's so good.
I'm about to buy him an iPad.
That
that game's so
if
good.
you saw it, you'd be like, "What are you guys smoking?" But it is
It's so fun, actually.
one of the best values you get in a video game.
I never got into like the mobile, and I know that's the largest growing market. I believe is what everyone's saying.
100%. Yeah.
I just never got into it.
Me neither. But this is transcends.
I mean, this
that.
is on everything. The only reason I said it's on phone is because you don't have a PC or
No,
you
right.
have
Yep.
whatever. But
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. I don't even like tower defense games, and that game is just so good. It's about you say you play as a bunch of monkeys, and these endless waves of balloons try to penetrate your defenses, and then you just pop them. That's the game.
and you have like your normal dart monkey that just throws a dart, and you have like a wizard monkey that kills balloons, and then you could
It just
upgrade
gets
him to a
crazier and
necromancer
crazier.
to like raise the balloons back to go against the other balloons.
And then you get like a sniper monkey. You get like
So his computer, Call of Duty, no problem, totally fine, runs fine.
Yeah.
But we got so high in Bloons Tower Defense 6, his computer shuts off. It's like, dude, there's too much going on. I can't do it. It just powers down.
Oh, that's hilarious. And
so
you got you got a pretty serious machine, right?
it's pretty. I mean, Tyler's better than me now, but
Slightly, but yeah.
yeah, no, I have a pretty serious rig. It is not. It was like, nope, we're done.
That's hilarious.
We were like around 200 something.
Yeah.
And it's just like 10 frames.
I'll just send you like a 5-second clip sometime of like, hey, do you have any idea what's going on? Like you lose your cursor. Like you can't because there's so much going on.
Oh
You
my
just don't know
God.
what's
It gets
happening.
so crazy. But it's such a fun
man.
game. It's just so ridiculous. It's like, you talk about like turn your brain off, just have a good time with the boys. That is the perfect.
And-
you could literally just like, You could be playing it on your tablet while watching your kids. Like, it's like so easy.
And I respect that. Like, I kind of like games being like that. Me as a casual player, I don't have the time to get super involved. And if I'm going to pick a game like with Diablo, I was like, okay, I'm going to get involved. That's the only time you're going to see me spend any extensive amount of time on that.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. But
yeah, video games. That's not why we're.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Why are you sorry? This is.
That was great.
We have to get this in so we can stay a video game podcast.
I just
on Apple, we're technically leisure.
Okay,
that's our.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm just happy to hang out with you guys. Like,
I'm happy you're here.
This is great. I've never seen Tyler this happy in my life. He just gets giddy anytime you come up in conversation.
He's the best.
It's so great.
Honestly, he's the
Tyler
best.
is the best. Tyler is the best. I love Tyler.
Oh, thanks, man.
All right. I do have to ask about this because I do see you got a stack of notes, which I love.
It's I got a couple. It's more to just keep me on track.
How many pages do you have there? Is it front and back?
No, it is not.
Okay, so you're
Jeff does front and back.
Yeah, Jeff does.
It's like
Jeff had six front and back.
Yeah,
it was his
like
record.
There's a back
awesome.
there.
Yeah. It's garbage paper.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking about that whenever, and I forget which podcast it was when you mentioned the pyramids. I'm like, oh my gosh, I studied those for years, and I gave some talks on it and had some information on that, and that's when I reached out to you.
Yeah.
Like, and we've been trying to do this for a while, but with my schedule, your schedule, it didn't work out. So I was like, I don't know how long it would take. I'm like, I'm not going to go. I mean, we could be talking for hours. So I did make just a couple notes just to kind of keep me on.
Yeah,
on track.
I mean,
a couple of notes.
Let's talk about the pyramids.
No, it's fantastic. The pyramids they're one of the 7 wonders of the world, right? Or are they an ancient wonder?
Ancient?
Yeah, ancient. Yep.
Yeah, there's a difference, right? There's the 7 current wonders of the world.
See, you talked about this last time, and I was just.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Sure,
there's
sure.
7 current wonders of the world, and then there's 7 of the ancient wonders,
Right.
where I think the pyramids are the only ones left, right?
I'm trying to think. Great Wall of China was on there as well. That's obviously
Oh, is that-
still there. Yeah.
Okay.
Hanging Gardens.
The Hanging Gardens are gone.
Yeah.
Colossus is gone.
Colossus is gone. Yeah.
The statue of Zeus, I think, was one, which is gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean, there's 7 of them. But anyways, yeah, the pyramids is.
We only had a magic machine that we could just type
could look it
into.
up.
And
I was actually going to ask, have you ever played Civilization?
loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, really good game. Like,
Which one?
So it was Sim 2 maybe when I was a kid, and you were like a little box just a box of whatever you are. If you were a catapult, it was like a little square of a catapult and just kind of like hit into the guy. I loved that game.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was such a good
Dude,
game.
we should get. We're getting into. I've gone into Civ 6. Were you playing with me or no? You weren't.
I
playing
didn't play with you.
I got back into it. I think you'd love it.
I'm sure I
You can
would.
build the pyramids.
Like I'm sure I'd get obsessed with it. It goes back to like the time thing.
Yeah.
And when I do,
that's a lot of time.
it is. And when I do jump on, Johnny, I'm usually like, I got an hour to play.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm on there for an extended period of time, but I do
this
love
would be
those
like
games.
a LAN party.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you
when
have the day off,
yeah.
and we're just going to be degenerates sitting at a.
My dream is like we get all the boys together, like 10 people, and it's just like everyone clears their schedule once a year, one Saturday, and we just play all day, dude. We just play Civ all day. That would be awesome.
Have like the champion or whatever, like and
Like
you just
create
kinda
like a cup, and
that'd
everyone
be
gets
cool.
it every year. Yeah, that would be so sick.
Make it like the league.
What a
Whoever
great
loses
game,
just
though.
gets
Such a fun
roasted,
game.
yeah.
Dude, they were always really good. All of them.
Yeah, like they're pretty spot on with a lot
Sure,
of stuff.
sure.
The music's incredible. I love the quotes too. Like they'll quote like
That's right.
Aristotle to me like, while I'm like inventing things. It's super cool.
Yeah.
I'd be curious how you feel. So you've only played 2?
Yeah. Like I dabbled in some of the other
Sure.
ones, but that was the only one that I played consistently as a kid, beat it multiple times I beat it with every civilization that you could pick from the start.
Yeah.
Both of them.
No, there was like Abraham Lincoln, Alexander
Yeah.
the Great. The Zulus were awesome.
They have so many now, dude. And what they do now is you might have a country with multiple leaders.
Yeah, see, like
So
that's
like
awesome.
America has Teddy Roosevelt and Lincoln, I think. It's so
Okay.
cool. It's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, always enjoyed those.
Yeah. Anyways, we're talking about the pyramids specifically.
Yeah, so
And yeah, take it away, man. Tell us, educate us.
here's the thing, and Tyler probably knows this of me. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I don't really care what the truth is. I just want to get at it. Okay, that's it. And this started way back in the day. I still remember it was a high school class where I had a science teacher mention something. I'm like, that really? And then I looked it up and read a lot of individuals like James Tour, who's an amazing chemist, phenomenal stuff. Some of the things that he's discovered and what he writes about. And like, this guy's full of shit. Oh, sorry, Aunt Sally. Full of crap.
All right, I gotta start bleeping these things.
And
I can tap this here and it'll save.
Sorry.
That's pretty cool, right?
That is very sweet.
Yeah.
But the more I studied specific aspects, the more I realized, boy, like things don't add up, and a lot of stuff that is the mainstream just isn't correct. And the pyramids is certainly one of those. Certainly. Now, science always reserves the right to be corrected based on new findings. Mm-hmm. Totally get it. But up until that point, you kind of have to look at the evidence and then come up with your own mind. And if the evidence doesn't point to what they're trying to cram down their throat, as scientists, they should adjust and change, and they don't. Now, there's a reason for that, which I don't even know if we'll get into it on this one, but there's a reason for that. Frustrated the hell out of me. Couldn't stand it. So the pyramids is just one of multiple things that I looked into. So, for instance, on the pyramids, it says it's a tomb, okay? For Khufu. Sure, okay. We'll go with that, considering not one pyramid has ever had a mummy or a skeleton in it. Not one.
I was looking, because I was like, oh, I gotta. Now, granted, I was watching the Ancient Aliens version of it,
Yeah.
But they bring that up too, where it's just like, okay, well, like, what are you saying, like grave robbers or something? Like took the mummy? Like, there's nothing in there.
Not one pyramid.
So I didn't realize
Ever.
it was all. So none of them.
Not one.
That's crazy.
So where were like those kinds of things located then? Just its own separate tombs?
Valley of the Kings is where they buried all their kings. And if you go to the Valley of the Kings, there's hieroglyphs. There are freaking artifacts out the wazoo. There's documented records on that they put on the walls by each king. Like, it's so not what the pyramids were.
Right.
It's just so not.
Right.
That it's startling, that they come up with this theory like, we're going to say it was a tomb. Really? Like, it makes no sense. And people don't know this. It's a relatively new concept. It's about 150 years old. If you actually ask Egyptians, they're like, no, we didn't build them. Like, they have let me see. I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, so they had like a race that they called Kemet that they said came before them. And that's where this all came developed. We didn't do them. You don't even find that just like with the Egyptians. You find it all over the earth. So like the indigenous tribes in North America also did the same thing when it came to like the Serpent Mount. Do you guys know what the Serpent Mount is?
You have to like do that aerial or whatever, and then you could see
it's a snake eating an egg.
Yeah,
interesting. And on top of that, it's physically impossible for how much dirt they moved with what they had. But it doesn't matter. And they'll say to the people that document this that you guys did this. They're like, no, we didn't. Same with like if you move down south, we were talking about the coffee in South America. Same thing. If you talk to the locals and like their traditions are, we didn't build any of this. But they keep cramming it down your throat that they did, but whatever. So back to the pyramids, there's never been a mummy found in any pyramid or any remains. There's no hieroglyphs, none. On all the pyramids, there's none of that. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. They literally put it on everything. And then the locals on top of that say, yeah, we didn't, like that's our tradition. Another race of beings called the Kemet were way more advanced, and that's where they originated.
So like when you're talking the Kemet, like is this like pre-biblical times then? Or is that like if they existed, like when are we talking?
Yeah, like Egyptians are old.
Yeah,
like
they've
super
been around.
old.
They are, but there's exceeding evidence that there was a worldwide flood, which we can get into. 100%, and every single civilization has a flood myth, almost like every single one. There's a gentleman, his first name was John, I forget it, it's Dr. John something. He was so startled by how many people had a flood myth that he went around for, I think it took him like 1 or 2 years, and just collected the flood stories from all these different cultures, because it's like it's unheard of. They're all from different parts of the earth. They all have the same. I wonder how much they're alike. And I actually printed this out just for you, Tyler.
Thanks.
So his name is Dr. John Morris. So craziness. He collected over 200 flood stories from 2 different types of civilizations, all that had this myth. 88% have a favored family. 66% have a forewarning in their tale. 66% the flood came due to wickedness of man/beings. 95% the flood is catastrophic. 95% the flood is global. 70% involve some type of a boat or an ark. 73% involve animals being saved or being part of the flood. 35% involve birds being sent out to gauge whether there was land or not. All right, well, you're not going to hear that anywhere. Like, it's completely blocked off.
And sorry, how many stories was it? 200?
Over 200
Yeah.
is what he collected. It took him about 2 years to do it. But again, it's like, okay, just look at the evidence and kind of go from that. And like, maybe we'll jump into this now if you guys don't mind. But
you're leading this train, man. I'm enthralled.
I'm on board, dude.
I mean, yeah. So if you think about it, if that is the case, there should be telltale signs that occurred. And do we see that? Well, 100% yes, we do. And I won't get too involved. But I mean, start with just the sedimentary rock that is literally everywhere all over the earth that only occurs whenever there's a mixing of waters due to water. Mm-hmm. And what's crazy about this is like we see it everywhere. It's not just like in one area. So like the traditional viewpoint is a comet came down, hit off the Yucatan Peninsula, and that's what caused it. And that is so insane because, I mean, there's multiple studies done that says, yes, there's no doubt it did, but there's no way that could cause a whole global issue, catastrophic issue. Sure, was there, maybe like a Mao-wide wave that like rushed over? Sure, but there's no way it could have made it all the way up into Canada, for crying out loud, right? And you'll never hear that. It's all buried. There's multiple studies. There's multiple trials that were done to be like, oh, yeah, there's no way. Now, certainly that could have been a part of it, but that's no way that could have been a catastrophic because you see it on every continent. There's not one continent that doesn't have sedimentary rock. On top of that, there's not one mountaintop where you don't find remains of animals, including fish. Well, fish can only swim and be in water. Mount Everest has one of the largest deposits of fish, fossilized fish, on Mount Everest.
Yeah, which is wild.
Oh.
Like
I mean,
that's crazy.
It's just unbelievable.
Is there any time period in which they theorize that this kind of thing happened? Like we're talking. I would assume we're talking millions of years ago, right?
No, 13,000 roughly.
13,000.
Yep. It's called the Younger Dryas, and it's like the new theory that is like, it's just based on the evidence.
So what's interesting about that is like, if they're proposing that there's advanced civilizations in that time period, which by the way, that's what my brother, his theory is
100%.
is that, and by advanced, he talks about it in which it's not necessarily what we would think, like with the same technology that we have, but their mathematics, like their understanding of things, especially in the pyramids, had to be a higher level than what we would theorize is at the time. But I guess what confuses me is like we are able to extract, I believe, I'm a novice at this subject, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we're able to extract like remains of different things that are like millions of years old, right? And humans date back that long, and I don't think that there was evidence supporting that they had super advanced things, I guess, unless I'm misunderstanding.
So you got to be very, very careful whenever you talk about carbon dating. That can be extremely tricked, relatively easy. And it also assumes that the same amount of carbon has been on the planet since day one, which we know is not true. One volcanic eruption can absolutely throw that off. To the point where whenever Mount Everest went, or not Mount Everest, the big one in America, help me out, Ty. It was in 1980.
So before I was born?
It was the year I was born.
Yeah.
Volcano?
Yeah. What was the big volcano that?
Is it in Wyoming?
It's not Fiji.
I forget the name of it. I can't believe it's because
Ararat.
end of the week. But
No, you're good.
but at any rate, so because of that great destruction, no, this is like the easiest one. It's just my brain isn't working right now.
Where is it located? All right, I'm gonna look it up. Keep going.
Yeah, look
though.
it up. It's It's
What do you want me to look up?
1980 volcano.
1980 volcano, United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that basically transformed that landscape in a matter of seconds. And there were certain trees that dated back millions of years, which they clearly know wasn't. It also created cuts within that mountain and below that looked like water was been rushing over it for millions of years. And no, it happened within a couple hours.
Right.
So when we're talking like the flood and whatnot, are we saying that it was Kinmet?
The Comet, yeah.
Kemet? Are we saying that they were before the flood, then the flood
Correct.
wiped them out?
Wiped them out.
So
100%.
then the pyramids were pre-flood.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Are we talking Mount St. Helens?
Thank you.
Yep.
Dude, you just got to. It's Friday, and
No, you're good. Hey, you know who you're talking to? Like
my brain doesn't.
You're great, dude.
Shut off, and I usually have like 50 things going through it at once. So just bear with me. But yes, that is it. It fooled every gadget, and it was just unbelievable how it carved out what technically, quote unquote, took millions of years, and it did it in a.
Like you're
couple
saying,
hours.
if a civilization came back far in the distant future, they'd say, "Oh wow, this
Yeah, it
took
fooled-
millions of years to form."
Sure,
Yeah.
and it also fooled all the scientific gadgets that they had there.
So are you saying that the Earth is a lot younger than we think it is?
I don't know how old it is. I'm
Right.
just saying what the basis of science states. I mean, it's a guess.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know how old it is.
Yeah, carbon dating is something that I think it's widely accepted in the scientific community, but there are definite skeptics
Sure.
of how accurate it is.
Yeah,
I don't know
mean,
enough about it.
You get
to,
into creationism versus evolution, different things like that.
Sure.
too.
That's
Like,
true. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It gets pretty crazy. But yeah. Anyways,
But yeah, so that is the idea, and this is coming more and more popular, where there was a large catastrophic event that wiped out a lot more advanced civilizations that was once first known. Göbekli Tepe, which is in Turkey right now, is like holy crap, this thing dates back even before the pyramids, and their technology is unbelievable. So, you go back and you have the own Egyptians saying we didn't build it. You have all these other cultures that say we didn't build it, but yet, all the archaeologists are like, yeah, you did. Like, well, no, we didn't. Yeah, you did.
what do you think the benefit would be for them saying that? Just like ease of attributing it to something, or
There is, boy, we're gonna get.
no? This is what I want. I want the juice. That's
yeah.
why I ask. I want the juice.
So whether you want to believe this or not, and I encourage everybody to do your own research, study everything, figure it out on your own, but do not take somebody's word for it that is quote unquote an expert. I think we've seen in the last few years that quote unquote experts can be pretty wrong. And I think you guys know what you're talking, but I don't want to lose your sponsorships.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But
Yeah, your sponsorships are very
Sure.
important. So, in science is bought and paid for. It is. I'm sorry it is, but there's certain individuals that, will skew results or get the results they need in order to continue funding, period. That same can be applied for basically promoting a narrative that goes against truth. And there's a reason for that, which we could get into, but I don't want to make it like too crazy, but I think the pyramids fall in that. I mean, it's something that was there beforehand. And we'll just to look at a couple other things. So how about this, guys? So construction, 2.5 million stones weighing about 6 million tons total is what the structure, and that's just that one pyramid. The blocks range between 2 and 70 tons each, okay? Craziness. The sides of the pyramid are aligned with the compass, starting with true north to 1/15 of a degree, which we can't do unless we have modern science. It's impossible. They claim that they did this with copper tools and stone. There's no way. And nobody in their right mind, especially in the construction industry, knows that that's impossible.
Well, that's what I don't understand is like, you have these two competing arguments and all this stuff. It's like, okay, do it at that point, right? Like, it's like, okay, if this is such a conflict between the two, let's just build a pyramid.
Right. So they tried.
Did they try?
Yeah,
Oh,
there
okay,
was
see,
a
I didn't know
famous, yep.
Can you grab me one too, John? Did you want anything?
No, I'm good. Thanks, buddy. I might get something in a little bit here.
What's up? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so they absolutely did try. There's a group of archaeologists that tried to do this, and I want to believe it was like in the late 80s, but I have to double check, and they failed miserably, including with all the modern technology that we had today. And they did build like a little tiny one, but then they broke the rules and just did it to do it. It was like a more...
Oh, it's like, yeah, we can't do this, but
yeah.
we wanted to see it. Thanks, man.
Another really, really funny, and I forget which pyramid it is. I don't think it's the ones in Giza, but they had like one of the blocks, and like as a tourist, you could come and they'd have like, these were the tools at the time, and go ahead and try. And they'd like, and it was so damning to their argument that they got rid of it like quick. They're like, all right, archaeologists, like we got to shut it. Because nobody in the right mind that would take a little copper chisel and hammer, no one in the right mind, they're like, oh, there's no way.
That's what I mean. Like, and again, I'm probably more of a novice than even John. It's just like,
Hey.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, you just said you're a novice.
I'm
Like,
a huge novice. I'm just kidding.
It's just like, it's one of those like, okay, just saying you're just throwing people at it. Now I understand, like, you have a lot of slaves, you have a lot of, like, but like, at some point,
That's a
how
myth.
many-
It actually wasn't slaves. Chat GPT told me that today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's-
I'm going by the biblical, like,
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it's just like, at some point, like, even if you took like China or India or whatever is like these like massive, but like, you're not building this
Right.
with that amount of people.
Totally agree.
Just-
And you're in good company. There's a lot of very wise individuals, archaeologists, scientists that have said the same thing. And this isn't anything new. This has been stated multiple times over and over. It just continues to get buried like rather quickly.
See, what we should have done is had my sister-in-law on, an archaeologist, and then just kind of like,
She's an archaeologist?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's kind of cool.
I don't know if she would just be like ripping her hair out and just like angry
I'm sure
about
she
it, or
would.
if, yeah,
'Cause
but
they're taught one thing, and
I don't know.
I get it. But on that, let's just say that, for instance, they said they found information that states that the pyramid, although they claim it's that one, I doubt it is, took 20 to 30 years to build. Okay. If that was the case, and if you count up how many stones are within the pyramid, that means that 250 tons worth of stone would have to be carved and laid within 3 minutes.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. And this is what, and they're like, I mean,
That's nuts.
But like, people are smart. Like, even if you're like making stuff up or you're just guessing and then you have to like double down on your guess, right? You would think that you would have mathematicians, if you're willing to say like, the Earth is billions of years old and the galaxy is, or like the Big Bang was 33 billion trillion whatever years ago, and they throw all these giant numbers out. Why would you then go and say like, oh, these were built in 30 years or something, where the math is so, because like, that's quick math, right? Like, I feel like you could be smarter than that.
Yeah.
right.
But-
And that was one of the big gaffes. Like when it came out,
Yeah.
there's an individual, I have his book. It's phenomenal. Who was like, who did the math work on it. He's like, there's no way. Keep in mind, guys, like, and we're going to get into construction because you got to hear some of this stuff. It's unbelievable. But, these large granite blocks, these weren't like at a local quarry. Some of them were, absolutely. Other ones were over 500 miles away. We're talking 70 ton. And to us, we're like 70 ton. We don't know what that means. That's 35 large SUVs over 500 miles. That's the width of Florida from.
How do you pull that?
You don't.
Like, what animal could pull that?
You don't.
Well, you take
T-Rex?
the little rollers and you put them down and then you...
But the inertia you need to get that started from stop.
And
You know what I mean?
right. And keep in mind, I mean, this is also over terrain that, like, how do you get a 70 ton, like around trees and up and down valleys and there's swamps and
Did they have roads? I don't.
they had their version of roads.
Yeah.
Did they
Weren't the Romans the ones that invented roads? Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
like modern roads or whatever?
Yep.
Because it
Well-
had like paper too. I think Egypt had paper.
Papyrus.
Yeah. So
Right.
it just wasn't...
Right. Yeah, but like I think that's interesting. But I wanted to point out, we were talking about the 7 ancient wonders, right? They're all huge and like astronomically big. And so here are the 7: Great Pyramid of Giza, right, which we're talking about; the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is an insane. It seems mythical that something like that existed, right? Colossus of Rhodes, Temple of Artemis, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Mausoleum of Halicarnassus, the Statue of Zeus in Petra. Just humongous monuments that like would be extremely challenging to build today.
Right.
But then
I think that's fascinating.
to that line of thinking, though, are we saying that all of those were built pre-flood?
There's pre and post
They,
flood.
they are built in around the same time period,
Right.
like,
So
give or
then
take,
if you're
yeah.
talking like a more advanced civilization...
So the beauty
Right.
of this is it's startling. The evidence behind what was pre and post is absolutely startling, and you can't really mess it up to the point where I know I'm supposed to talk close to this. Give me. So like Peru is a perfect example, and I know the audience can't see any of this stuff, but that's all right.
He pulled a big book out.
There's structures that are clearly what was done in the past, and then the natives are like, we built on top of it, and you
Yeah.
can see it, and
Yeah.
and it's so startling. And let me find
That's
this
so
for
cool.
you.
I actually want to interject here, just real
Yeah,
quick.
please.
So I'm going to nerd out just a little bit. So I've been like, Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and I've been super into like the Forgotten Realms lore.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose, like the kind of like the idea behind that is that it's called the Forgotten Realms because you have these ancient civilizations that have these crazy, powerful and huge cities stuff, and then it got lost to time.
Sure.
And then people start uncovering that like in the current quote unquote age. So I think that's kind of interesting that it seems like a very similar.
So these blocks that you're seeing there, they're not right angles. They're so tightly fit without any mortar that a piece of hair can't go between them.
That's crazy.
It's almost as if, and they're like, it's almost like they like softened them up, pushed them together like a marshmallow, and then let them harden. Like it doesn't make any sense.
In that way, they don't need any like.
There's no
Like
mortar.
and stuff, yeah.
Right.
So this is in Peru, and this is like the most startling. Like these are all unbelievably tight fitting. Now you only see a part of that. They also go back to a point that's insane. So you see the front face. They also go deep.
And what is this called? I'm sorry.
It says Sasquatch in Peru.
Yeah.
And this is like their famous wall. Now, the reason why I'm showing this to you, keep in mind the locals are there like, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. And that's our tradition. They talk about giants and all this other cool stuff. That's awesome, which, by the way, we can get into the giants thing. There's
Also, in every mythology,
absolutely.
there's like consistencies, right? Where
Yeah.
there's always giants.
Well, even biblically, I mean,
Biblically,
Bible,
yeah.
Like
right,
Goliath, obviously you have, but
Sure.
like it was just generally speaking, people were just bigger. They lived longer. They did, which even that is a little contradiction.
That
right?
is
'Cause It's like
interesting.
typically like
Yeah.
the bigger you are, it's like the shorter your life, right?
100%.
Everything
So-
changed with the flood.
It's
Everything.
crazy.
So here's a prime example. If you guys can see that, you can see what was done pre-flood. You can see what they did post-flood. They built on top of it, and the technology is clearly different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
even close. But you see this all over the world, including China and Japan. which-
Pre-flood is the larger pieces.
correct, that are fit
Gotcha.
perfect without mortar.
Wow.
And the pyramids are the same way. There's no mortar involved, and they're just unbelievably well fit together. So they're less than 3/4 of an inch off of level. That you can't do that. You can't do that on that large of a footprint. And I, coming from the construction industry, and my dad being a mason, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The other crazy thing is they line up perfectly with true north of the compass. So the angles on the pyramid are 100% perfect with that, to a degree that they're like, this is unreal. How could they possibly know that? But they did. Little thing that you can do whenever you're drunk and you're at like one of your like, I don't know.
Soccer
you want,
trips, yeah.
You want to
just,
throw something out there. How many sides are on the pyramid? You guys know?
looks like 4.
Thought it was 4.
Except they're like V'd in, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
there's
so
I didn't
what-
know that
What
one.
would that be?
That's-
Like 8?
There's 8.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there's a reason for that, and we're going to get into it, but just keep that in mind. Like they're concaved in on each side. And by the way, those are perfect too. Literally perfect. Not
Like you have to see it in a certain light and like just catch the shadow and be like, oh, I was he was flying overhead or something, and
Yes.
like just happened to notice like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like a
Yep.
like a flat thing, but they were equal.
Is there a picture? There's probably a picture.
Oh, yeah.
There,
There
yeah.
is. It's in the book too.
That was also on the Ancient Aliens episode.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, man.
So just to put this in perspective, they're 1/15 of a degree off of the compass. So north, south, east, west, 1/15 off. That's unbelievable. Each side is 750 feet long and within 2 inches of each other.
So when you're talking the compass in the 15th degree, and this is probably getting even more out there, but like poles are shifting,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
So like, would it be? Now I sound like the people from Ancient Aliens. Would it be possible if the poles are changing that they could, at one point it was quote unquote perfect, and like we are like shifting or whatever like that, and then it's like that maybe,
And that is exactly what this individual who studied these said. They're like, oh, it actually was perfect at one point. It's just that the earth shifts.
yeah,
And
that's wild.
like 100% perfect.
So we might get into this, and I apologize for interrupting. But
No, buddy,
it's
you're
blowing
good,
my
man.
mind. What do we think the purpose was for them? It
I'll-
seems super intentional, right?
Yeah, 100%. So here's, and we're going to get into this. So
Okay, sorry.
No, buddy,
it's
like-
all baked in.
you'll see. There's a specific reason. And I'm
Getting
just
ready for the lead up is, you know.
You just need to know how amazing these things are. 750 feet long, within 2 inches of each other. That's 99.98 accuracy on the walls. All right, well, them being there for that long, clearly just the earth moving. At one point, I guarantee you they were 100% accurate. Me being from a Mason family, that's impossible.
Dude, my townhome wall, like now that all the walls are ripped off and you're looking at the framing, it's more than 2 inches off.
Sure.
Just because they're just like throwing stuff up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
So that's what I mean. It's just unbelievable. So just to give you an idea, and I'm going to show this to you. And again, I apologize to the audience. This is one of the...
We'll have a video podcast at some point.
It's okay. But I wanted to just show this to you guys. And I'm sorry, like I just printed it out quick. I have like a beautiful copy of it. This is a cutaway of it. Does that look like anything a tomb would be? Like, clearly there's a specific purpose for all those different types of chambers, and a tomb doesn't have that. There's no tomb on the planet that
And these
has
are the lines are where you would enter from? Or?
Those are shafts that they found within the pyramid, and there's a specific reason for those, and we're going to get into that.
Seems like it would be for like water or something, right?
Air,
Like,
just like not, yeah.
but it's all shifted downwards like
Yeah.
a drain.
Anybody with even a half thinking would be like, that's clearly not a tomb. That's a specific design for a specific purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Keep in mind, there's no artifacts. There's never been a mummy found.
But like you said, we found where the tomb was.
Yeah, the Valley of the Kings.
We know where there's where they kept them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Interesting.
So to give you an idea, so what was its purpose, right? Like, we want to know what it is. It's clearly something that was done to a degree that is just unbelievable, including dragging these 70-ton, blocks over 500 miles. Like, why would you go 500 miles away to get this specific type of granite? And there's a reason for that.
So real quick, too, because you said that some quarries were more local.
Yes.
And I assume the more pyramids. How many pyramids are there total?
Well, there's 3 in this little area.
Okay. But like still, like it's a lot. Like, would you have some foresight then that like if the ones 500 miles away are smaller because they're more towards the top or something like that, or is it just
So the reason why they went to a quarry that's over 500 miles away is that stone is completely unique and specific.
Okay, and it's the same one as the local one as well. They had to find.
It's different.
Pockets.
It's different limestone. I said granite. I meant limestone.
Oh, okay.
Completely different. So let's take a look. Let's see if we can figure out if there's a reason behind this. I think we established that this, and this is becoming more and more common. This is not a tomb. It's just not. It's not designed like one. We've never found a mummy in any pyramid. This is something unique. So let's take a look at this. The limestone interior. Okay, there's local casting stones that are white limestone, smooth and polished on all areas. But these were just like the casting stones. These were on the outside. The inside is where they got completely different limestone, which they could have just got it there if it's just a tomb. Just get all the limestone. That's easy, right? No, they need to get a specific type, and there's a reason for that. The internal limestone has magnesium and conducts electricity, which is kind of cool. Like, it's awesome. Any of you that have like a watch that doesn't need to be charged is because of the quartz in it. And all this stone on the inside all has quartz. And that's where they had to go specifically to go find this quartz. And there's a high concentration of it. So in theory, it could potentially create electricity. Okay. The casting stones, this is so cool. The casting stones are actually an insulator, which means you got an inside that conducts electricity. The outside is an insulator. And anybody who's in electricity knows how important that is. The electricity stays within the whatever parameter it is. And that insulator, like on a wire, that keeps electricity flowing in one position, keeps it safe. That's exactly what we see with the pyramids. You got interior limestone that can conduct it. You have exterior limestone that's an insulator, perfect insulator. Interesting.
So it's like super specific to like if you were going to conduct electricity, this is how, like, in modern days, these are the considerations we make.
100%.
Like you'd say, like insulating it, having something that's able to conduct electricity.
100%.
That's crazy.
And I'm just saying these are the facts. Do with them what you will. But
right.
That's all I'm saying. Science always reserves the right in order to change itself based on new evidence that's found in the future. That's fine. But this is not a tomb. It's not.
Right.
So moving on from that, like the interior is made of rose quartz. Again, extremely conductive with electricity. A very specific stone used in a very specific manner. Okay. So quartz faces have positive and negative side charges. So again, like I mentioned, the watch, all those watches have quartz in it. It has a tiny little crystal in it. You just shake it and it gets excited and you have your electricity. Same thing that we see in the pyramids. So Christopher Dunn, he proposed a theory, and this is going to get a little weird, but
we're here for weird. I mean, this is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
So they found like aquifers underneath the pyramid. Okay. They're like, well, that's weird. And it was built very specific in order to tap into these aquifers, which was kind of odd. So what he found is that these aquifers basically created sound waves, which any type of rushing water does. And the sound wave, which, John, you're a musician, so you should like this. Everything within here has the same frequency. So everything that we see has a frequency. This table has a frequency. The glass does, I do. Everything does.
Well, you're talking about like a resonating frequency in which, absolutely, yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever seen where they put like a tiny little oscillator on a bridge and it can move the whole bridge just by hitting that frequency.
Yep.
Crazy. Well, so this guy was like, I wonder what frequency like all this stuff's at. So they, and again, they shut this all down once they started getting close. And to this day, like the Egyptian government it's absurd. But anyway, it's F sharp. John, do you know F sharp?
I know the note.
Yeah, you do. Because you're an amazing musician, which I suck. Sorry, Mom. My mom's a piano teacher. I suck at it. But
she's very good. Yeah.
So in F sharp, there's a lot of weird theories that was placed before the flood and all that with F sharp. And like it, in theory, can resonate with the earth. The earth resonates at an F sharp.
I did not know that.
I didn't either until I started.
Do you know what the frequency is though? Like what the F sharp would be? Well, let's think. A is 440, right? Is the A that orchestra is tuned to?
Okay.
So F sharp, are we talking like what octave? What frequency are we talking?
440 hertz.
Oh, it is 440?
Yeah.
That's F sharp
right away.
It's between 440 and 600 ish.
Maybe that's crazy. Okay,
yes,
keep going.
There was an acoustic engineer who did all of this. I don't know any of this stuff, Johnny, but yeah, it was an acoustic engineer who determined that. So super interesting. These aquifers would potentially create this resonating power source, so to speak, in order to create electricity throughout this whole.
Are you sure it's 440 hertz?
It's between 440 and 600 is what they were.
That would be an A4.
Okay.
Which is that actually gets crazy because that's literally what we tune to.
So Macintosh used that as their opening chime whenever they first started. If you turn on a
little boom, yeah.
And the reason why is because it's considered like the Earth's harmony.
That makes like so much sense because there's like so many theories about like how we're drawn to that because it's like this innate feeling of home. That's wild. Okay, keep going.
No, you're
that's
correct.
Like
that's
blowing my mind right now. Yep. It's like going full circle. 440 is okay.
Yep.
Yikes.
So they found these aquifers and they found ways that they tapped them. There's two shafts that lead into the what they call the Queen's Chamber. I'm just going to use their terminology just so we're on the same page. They found that one was like completely laden with hydrochloric acid and one was completely laden with zinc chloride. And if you mix those two, you get a violent reaction. All again, basically working together in order to create electricity. So it's harnessing basically free and clear energy from the water. This is the theory at least, so just bear with it. We talked about the F sharp. At the top of the gallery, there's a square shaft that leads into the King's Chamber. That shaft is 8.4 inches by 4.8 inches, which is the exact diameter of a wavelength of that same frequency. So it's literally designed to capture that wavelength to focus it again. Okay, it's unbelievable. Again,
that's incredible.
The King's Chamber also resonates at that same 440 hertz. Above the King's Chamber, there's 5 layers of granite beams. This is crazy. There's 5 layers of granite beams stacked.
So these are granite?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, here's the cool thing. They're separated by air gaps, and this is clearly done by archaeologists who's never worked in the construction industry. But originally they said, these beams were placed in there in order to help the structure with its weight. And it's like, that's what? It's in the middle of the pyramid.
Well,
Like, it makes
gaps
no
would be
sense.
like, I mean, that's like soundproofing. That's fire stuff too, right?
Yeah, like it makes no. Any structural engineer would look at that and be like, "You have no clue what you're talking about."
That'd be like insulation almost.
It's not. How can it bear weight if it's in the middle of the freaking?
Yeah.
And they got called out on it. But
I mean, that's good.
You'll still read that though. They'll
Sure.
all tell you that it's to help dissipate the weight of the pyramid.
So
just complete.
The beams are in the middle, going
Yeah, like on
laterally or
Check
horizontally.
So check that out. You'll see on the King's Chamber, you'll see these 5 little pillars on the
Yeah.
top. That is them. Now here's
and sorry, this so it is off center.
correct. Yep.
Why would it? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Because of the water underneath the ground to best tap into it, they had kind of had to force like how to design it. So
I'm
to speak.
saying like if the purpose was for the structure,
Oh, 100%.
you would think it would be in
buddy,
the center,
this is
and
like,
then it'd be like
this is day
vertical.
one stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's nobody who's even somewhat of a thoughtful engineer would know like that has nothing to do with weight bearing. But
All right, my mind's
so this
we're
is where
losing
it gets even more crazy. So those 5, okay, they found that 3 sides were perfectly smooth, beautiful. But there's one side that was clearly just kind of chipped away and rough. Well, they're like, well, that's odd, but then it made sense. Like, what if they kept chipping away until they got the frequency that they wanted? I wonder if it resonates at 440. Yep, it did. Like, so they literally chipped it away, tested it. I don't know how, chipped it away, tested it until it all resonated at that 440. So it was an amplifier. And you as a musician, like, kind of understand. It is like the perfect, what do they call when you blow over an
overtone?
bottle? Like you blow over a bottle, something resonator. I'm sure I wrote it down here somewhere. Helmholtz resonator.
okay.
It's exactly that. So it's amplifying this same frequency that all goes with that electricity.
Well, what happens is like you'll resonate a pitch, and then you'll get what's called an overtone. So there's
Okay.
these essentially, it's not imaginary, but you'll hear other pitches in the air that keep stacking nearly infinitely. And so the closer you are to like the true resonation of something, like the more you'll hear, the more perfect, quote unquote, it'll be. Which is why
Interesting.
in music, we always have, it's so fascinating that the perfect fifth, the interval that we've always gone to, where you have like a note and then 5 notes up, that interval, like when you play those 2 notes together, that'll give us like the whole overtone series when you it's very crazy stuff. But anyways, yeah, no, the power behind that, because like think about it, like when you see someone break a wine glass with their voice,
right.
that's what they're doing.
That's right.
They're resonating at the true frequency of the wine glass.
Correct.
And you see how destructive that can be. Like it is a lot of energy that is destroying the fabric of what the wine glass is.
That's
so
great.
imagine that amplified to a structure the size of the pyramids.
Correct. So we talked about the 8 sides, how they're slowly concaved in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, any structural engineer will let you know that you bow. Like if you look at the back of a bed of a truck, how the springs kind of bow towards the weight. So as the weight pushes it down, you have some help with that weight. That's the same thing. This is, again, theory, but the pyramids have 8 sides because they're kind of concaved in order to help with all that energy that, in theory, got pushed up through it. And we see evidence of that all throughout the pyramid. Like there's evidence of it. There's electrical, like residue, so to speak, left over on a lot of these different blocks that it looks like it clearly is what it was used for. But again, you won't hear that. But there's a 2018 study that was done where they shot radio waves up through from as close to the aquifer as they could, just to see what it would do. And it absolutely like magnified it like you wouldn't believe, to the point where it's like, oh, interesting. Maybe that's what it was for. And then it got got quickly shut down. But there was a 2019 study by Eric Wilson who also proved that large-scale granite can emit electromagnetic energy that shoots to the surface of the atmosphere. And he did this on multiple mountains in the United States. So he's like, holy shit, like granite does absolutely, like, and this wasn't even the specialized granite that was used in the pyramids. But granite does have a lot of quartz in it, and the magnesium buildup creates a lot of electricity. Well, he wasn't trying to prove anything with the pyramids of Giza. He was just doing this on his own fruition. And in 2019, found out that, yep, a lot of electricity is getting pushed up through these mountains using this. So interesting. So if we think about it, guys, the chambers were made of materials that could make electricity. The interior was made of materials that conducted electricity. And the outside was made of materials that insulates electricity.
Seems pretty...
it just seems
it seems
way.
intentional,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it seems
intentional. Now
what's crazy to me, I mean, that's all crazy, but one of the craziest things, I mean, the whole sound thing is super crazy, especially to me, but the how level it is, how it points true north or whatever, right? Like that's wild. That's wild.
Does the location of it have anything to do with any of that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
At least in theory.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
in
like
theory.
okay, I got you. I'm
Like
with
on the earth, you're saying?
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it has to be pointing true north and everything to make all of this
In theory,
work.
because where it is centrally located, it's pulling more energy from the earth itself. Whereas if you place something on the top, you only get the benefit of the
Yeah, 'cause
top
it's
of
like
it, so to speak.
two circles almost, like as far as the poles go.
It splits the compass perfectly.
Yeah.
So yes, it was very
got you.
intentional.
How close
for
is
that.
it to the equator?
I'd have to check, but pretty close. I mean, it's splitting it.
So it's pretty close to the to where the center of the earth would be.
Yeah, it's wild because like if
Sure.
you're looking at it and it's like I don't know. I mean,
Which is interesting. So here's a bonkers theory on this. So it's close enough to where you'd say a landmass moving, because that's what happens,
sure.
could adjust for, like it could have been perfectly like in the center of the world, technically.
right. And the other crazy thing is it lined it up. I forget which constellation. I didn't write this down, but it lines up almost perfect to a constellation, the three pyramids. And they kind of figured that out. Like the stars of this constellation on an equinox are right above.
Is it Orion's belt?
I forget.
Because that's 3 stars.
And I apologize, gentlemen. Like it's not one of the ones that I wrote down, but I know this is to be true. These 3 stars line up in front of the 3 pyramids at the equinox almost perfectly, except for a slight degree. But then they were like, well, wait a second. We know that constellations move at a constant throughout history. It's never going to be in the same place twice, but we're talking by so much of a fraction.
Right.
Well, when was it perfectly aligned with the pyramids?
Yeah.
So they backtracked, because you can do this all through mathematics, that it was 13,000 years ago, right where the Younger
Look at that.
Dryas states.
How good am I?
Oh,
The pyramids of Giza were aligned with the 3 stars of Orion's belt.
There you go.
I'm pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Because it's 3 in a row. Like that's how you identify Orion. Like that's one of the easiest constellations to identify, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating that when it would have been technically perfectly aligned,
Yeah.
it's 13,000 years ago, right when we're seeing a lot of evidence of a worldwide flood, like a ton. So
It's a mass relay.
It's a mass relay.
It's a mass relay.
So let's talk about that, right? So like here's something that gets a little. Just bear with me, gentlemen. This stuff is so crazy. Tesla claimed that he found the secrets of the pyramid. He was sure of it. And this is the same gentleman where everything basically you see here came from one of his ideas, including our cell phones, Wi-Fi, you name it. Okay. He claimed that he unlocked that, and he was well upon his way. There's pictures of him holding a light bulb that's lit up without any wires. It's not connected to anything. Okay, interesting. So JP Morgan, he's an awful human being, but JP Morgan basically hired him to help us with like a radio wave, to make radio waves like communications better. Tesla took his money and was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to figure out this free energy thing that the Egyptians were on. Mm-hmm. So he never told JP Morgan. And he's this guy was awesome. So he started building his own tower, and in theory, and it was underneath an aquifer, just like the pyramids were, to see if he could mimic this. And he's like, I think I can get free, clean energy for the whole world. He's like, I think it's relatively easy, actually. So he starts building this tower that's completely not what he was supposed to be doing. And he's like, I got it. He calls up JP Morgan and says, okay, I understand you wanted me to work on this radio. I didn't. I have a way to get free energy to the world. He's like, can I have more money? Well, JP Morgan instantly, I mean, think about it. This guy owned General Electric, at the time, what was now AT&T, but it was kind of close to AT&T. He owned copper mines. He owned all the transportation. Him and there's other people.
Everything you need
you need for electricity to continue to run. He owned all the different types of industries that basically deliver the electricity to your door. He owned them all. He's like, nope, that's going to put me out of business. So not only did he not give him the money, he then basically sued him for breach of contract. Then he went out and told all basically his cronies, so to speak, like, don't give him anything. Basically put this guy out. We need to end him. He couldn't get any funding to finish that tower, and the tower was quickly ripped down. Now, there's pictures of it and so on and so forth. Interesting fact, whenever Tesla died, somehow the FBI knew exactly when he was going to die, and they were right there, and they took every one of his boxes. Now, there's 4 boxes. I think there's 4 that aren't accounted for, but they took everything else. They took all of it. And it's like, okay, well, that sucks for us. This guy was a genius.
Yeah.
He was insane, but he was a genius. He's like, I forget who he wrote it to. I forget, but he's like, I unlocked it. I know what the pyramids are for, and he kind of used that as a basis. Now, the only issue was, and again, on top of the pyramid, we don't know where that capstone is. We don't know where it is, but it's relatively easy. You focus all this energy up. You need something like gold or something equivalent that would shoot it into the atmosphere. Then you need to be able to pull it back. He claimed he figured that all out. This tower that he built, I mean, it was all ready to not only deliver electricity, but also receive it. And he was ready to test it out. And once JP Morgan got wind of it, that was the end of him. That was the end of it. And guys, let's like...
Dang, I bank with that guy. I'm about to pull my money out.
I told you, like, history and science has been bought. It absolutely has.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to think, like, okay, we talk about global warming. We talk about sustaining everything. And like, but do we actually want that? Because when it's like, okay, if
it's not
you,
profitable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's like, hey,
Correct.
we have free energy for everybody, we're good. We're done. Like when you do the economic impact
when your
of jobs and money and business,
when your society's not built on money,
right?
Uh-oh.
Like
what is the core structure? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gentlemen, we still use an internal combustion engine,
which I love, by the way.
So do I.
So cool.
Yeah. So we left D&D last night. I'm driving. I'm like,
is that you?
Oh, that was 100% me. And I'm like, I bet that's John behind me. So like, I make sure I'm in the right lane. I just hear, it just goes.
What do you got, man?
Challenger.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
the V8. It's beautiful,
dude. It is.
It's such a
It's a thing of beauty. 100%.
Like if aliens come down, dude, they're gonna be so impressed by like these guys. Or well, they're gonna be scared and impressed by like these guys. Literally have these boxes that they drive around in, where explosions and propulsion make them go. Like they're gonna be so dumbfounded by that.
What
How
was
inefficient
was it? iRobot or something?
Right.
Of whenever he like got his like motorbike out, she's like, gasoline explodes. Like
yeah, it's crazy. We're insane. We're so good at it though. We've gotten so good at blowing things up and propulsing ourselves forward. It's actually hilarious.
But I guess the question then is like, is it just the ancient civilization like doing the best that they could with what they had, but they would just think bigger than us? Like we're thinking so small with like circuit boards and doing different things like that, but they're achieving theoretically like the same thing, but just on a massive scale. Like, is it them doing it? Is it, extraterrestrial? Are they having some help and things like that? And then when we were talking, I don't know, in a previous episode of like, you're talking about like different types of civilization. So it's like we're a type 0 civilization. We're still on planet Earth. We haven't, taken all the resources yet. But like, you have to overcome that thing that wipes you out. And you have these guys that were getting there, but then flood comes and wipes them.
Yep.
So I guess my question is like, if that happens, how are we here? Right? Like, did they continue on? Are we not even related to them?
Well, that goes back to and you listed off a bunch of percentages of like,
A lot of them had arcs.
Had like the family, how many had the arc, how many had the starting point.
Interesting. Okay.
So can we come back to that?
Go back to
Sorry.
I don't care how weird it sounds. Like, I'm gonna just throw something out there. But again, research it yourself. Don't take my word for it. But
I love this stuff. Conspiracy theories, space.
I just want the truth. That's all I want.
Yeah, sure.
And wherever it leads, that's where. But at any rate, but we talked about internal combustion engines. It's been the same technology for almost 200 years. Probably more than that. That's insane. We get a computer, and that's out of date within a year. Technology has increased
exponentially.
Why the hell are we still riding around in internal combustion engines? You're telling me there's not a better way? It's absurd. But you said follow the money? Yeah. I mean, look how much money is being made based on that.
Oil. Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely insane.
It's one of, if not the biggest moneymaker in the world, right?
For sure. And all the ancillary industries that are focused around that, including transportation, refining, you name it. But then you look at who owns all of that, like really owns it, and it's like the same families.
Yep.
And it's like some of the things they have done in the past.
Same people we're hoping to get sponsorships from, but I guess that's out the window.
I didn't name the families on purpose.
Could be anyone.
I mean, once you cross J.P. Morgan, it's pretty much done from there.
J.P. Morgan.
Yeah.
I bank with him, dude. I'm on his side.
Not anymore, you don't.
Yeah, my money's all gone tomorrow. $0 in the bank.
Yeah, he was doing some shady stuff, but he was more. I think that's another story. But so the whole 0 point energy is something that throughout the years there was multiple, and I mean multiple individuals that claim that they have found ways to get what's called 0 point energy. It's basically energy using with what we basically have without fossil fuels. Okay, this is, and I have like multiple books on this. This was me just grabbing one of them. I just to throw this out there. So. This one book, it's pretty amazing. It goes through all the individuals who either claim they had it, patented it, and actually prove they had it, and then what happened to them. Okay, so let's just take a little gander, shall we?
I don't think this is going to be good for them.
Stephen Marvinoff, leader of the European free energy movement. In 1997, close to the first prototype that he had that was used a form of 0 point energy. On his death certificate, it says, fell out of window and died. I'm not joking. He's Russian, but there's pictures of him. He's whatever. He was the leader of that movement. That movement quickly died. All of his research gone. Okay. Dr. John Mullen, nuclear physicist. He was arsenic poisoned in 2004. Poor guy. Dmitry Petronov, plasma battery.
Wait, what? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's insane. These are all.
I mean, what's his face just went in a plane crash?
Oh yeah,
the Russian guy.
The Kremlin, like, yeah.
They just asked, not to get off track. They just asked Biden about it. He's like, "Yeah, I could see Putin doing that." He's like, "Well, we don't know." They just kept going. It was like, jeez, it's a wild time, man. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, buddy, you're good. You're good. But yeah, like we got Zachary Warfield, inventor who made his own version of the plasma batteries. Are insane technology. If you haven't looked into them, look into them. They're amazing. But of course. He also visited Petronov to exchange information. They were working on something that used both of their technologies. Obviously, we know what happened to Petronov. The same year, he died in a strange boating accident in D.C. Okay. Eugene Moloff, expert in cold fusion. Cold fusion is another interesting one. Again, 0 point energy, announced working on a prototype of a free energy device in 2004. The day before the press release, he was beaten to death in what they considered was a robbery. Aries de Guy, I can't pronounce his last name. He's a Frenchman. Aries de Guias, he basically patented a free energy technology in 2007. He was aboard a plane to meet with a potential investor, found dead in his car at the airport. Roy Johnson, cold fusion laser and magnetic activated motor, which this motor apparently was amazing. It produced 500, you'd like this, Johnny. It produced 500 horsepower, and he planned. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could use that.
We would kill ourselves with that. But he actually had on the books a planned public demonstration, super pumped about it. U.S. Department of Energy placed a restraining order on him and his technology before he could display his invention. They took all of his books, claimed that, well, we won't get into that. Although in good health, he was described by friends and family. He died shortly after by quote-unquote natural causes. Cancer is what his wife said. But Mark Tallman patented what he called a star drive that used zero-point energy in 2009. He announced a working prototype shortly after he announced unexpected cardiac event. Died. Stan Myers, work engine that used water instead of any type of fossil fuel as the fuel. Died in 1997 as reported cerebral hemorrhage while having lunch with 2 potential investors. His final words were, "I was poisoned." James Allen, working on a documentary that highlighted zero-point energy, black projects from major players such as Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, same thing, died from cancer almost instantly. Gave an interview 2 weeks before he was diagnosed. In the interview, you can go watch it yourself. Like, dude, he's my age. Great, up and coming. Like, he looked fine. He was died within like 2 months from cancer. I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. I have multiple. I'm not going to bore you with it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like you could see like, guy gets cancer. It happens, right? And it's just like, but when you list them all out like that,
I mean, what do you have, like 20?
I got
scary.
way more than that.
That gets very scary.
That's so nuts.
So, and like it got to the point where certain individuals chose not to do any type of patent just because they were concerned. They still somehow got found out. Like the book is insane. It just goes through them all. So zero-point energy is, like I said, there's no reason for us to be using an internal combustion engine. Like there's no way technology isn't better than that. But here we are. Insanity.
Yikes.
And eventually we'll get there. I guess it's like, what is the...
Not really, because like even if you think of electric, I mean, it really goes back to like coal burning. That's the main source of
I guess
we burn coal to.
Well, I guess my thing would be like how can you get to that point? Like, and like I think you got as far like what was the most recent date? Was it like 2012 or something like that? Like I know you said like 2008 and stuff like that. Is it something where like you get big enough on social media?
Elon
or
Musk
something insane, where it's like you're either either Elon Musk gets you, and you get someone like him who just
because if you have enough
on the
people
face of it doesn't care,
support it or look into it, then you can't stop that.
You can't bury it as much.
Yeah.
So Toyota announced their hydrogen engine. Did you see that, Johnny?
I did not.
So interesting concept. The engine looks beautiful. Where is it? They announced that a while ago. Mazda did the same thing. Now, they didn't tell anybody what it runs on, but that was like 4 months ago where they were supposed to have a demonstration, but nothing to this date. At least Toyota put out like an image and they ran it, but then like it just like went away. And like the hydrogen engine has been around forever. There's individuals that were doing that back in like the 70s.
Right.
And hydrogen is extremely easy to get. Now, it's not as efficient as some of these, like plasma batteries are insane, but it's not as efficient as some of these others, but it's way better than what we're using.
Right.
It's like, come on, guys. Like Toyota, like they announced it and everything. They shot pictures of it and it just went away. Mazda, the same thing.
There's a big push towards electric, though.
So where's that going to get you? So if I'm all for it, I think that's awesome. But I mean, right now, every mine in the whole world could not produce the elements needed for just what California wants to do by 2030, I believe they said.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Not to mention that those batteries are... I mean, how do you dispose of them? They're pretty toxic. And on top of that,
But even the amount of coal we have to burn
Correct.
to build the batteries.
Yep.
You're just shifting the fossil fuels, and you know what I mean? And yes, the net emissions are down after a while. The initials, it spikes, but after a certain amount of time, it is lower than combustion, internal combustion engines. But
they're forcing you to.
You're still
to get an electrical powered vehicle, but they don't have the grid to handle. There's blackouts all the time in California. They don't have the grid right now to handle what they have. Let alone if you put on the road.
Issue. True.
I mean, it makes no sense.
That is another issue. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And again, where does that get you? Like, does it? Like does it just keep getting better? Like, how do you continue to produce that stuff? Like, what is the better? More mileage or like what? Like what is the next step then after electric?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it all goes back
plasma
to the
battery.
Yeah, the 0-point energy. Yeah, you're right. Like there's such better technology. It's just
I don't even know what a plasma battery is. Sounds crazy though.
It's awesome. It's
like
the technology, I guess what I'm trying to say is the technology is out there. I mean, the pyramids, for crying out loud, Tesla, all these individuals that came up with some type of 0-point energy. It was all out there. It's just it's not getting to the market for various reasons.
So I know we were kind of touching on it. Like, how did they just come up with this on their own? Like the ancient civilization or something? Or like what do you?
So here's what I'm gonna throw out there. And again, you don't have to believe me, and that's fine. I've studied this stuff inside and out. So for what it's worth, every civilization talks about, like the Greeks, Romans, and it's not just them, it's everywhere. They talk about like God's coming down and giving man technology that was unheard of. Even the Bible, it talks about Benign Elohim. It is only used once, and it's basically angels, for lack of a better word. Angels is it's what you do. It's not who you or what you are. It's a profession. An angel means messenger. That's it, period. Benign Elohim is the Hebrew that they used that discussed that angels had free will. They chose to basically be like, screw you, and like came down and basically the book of Enoch, which I know is not canon, but Christ referenced it, the New Testament referenced it all the time.
It's crazy to be like, it's not canon with the I guess the Catholic Church at that point. Yeah.
I mean, it's another whole. But,
yeah, sure, fair enough.
At any rate, it tells you exactly how this all happened. It even names them. It's like, hey, these are the individuals that came down. God was like, nope. And they basically did horrible, horrible things to humankind, but they also gave them a ton of technology. But in these horrible, horrible things that they did to humankind, they also produced ridiculous genetic issues, including like giants. And before you guys think I'm insane, go back and look on all the recordings of finding giant bones. It was as prevalent as could be, so much to the point that Abraham Lincoln even quoted it as if it was like normal everyday stuff in his speech in Niagara Falls. If you look up Abraham Lincoln's speech, Niagara Falls, giants, everybody was hitting giant bones. Everybody. If you're a farmer, if you were digging for anything, you hit them. Give me 1 minute. I got it.
Yep. I vividly remember all the tabloids showing like Abraham Lincoln was an alien.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, and like this was so common.
And this is a book on the trail of the Nephilim.
So Nephilim is basically the offspring that is mentioned within the Bible, including every other culture that you want to look into. They all mention some type of giant species that came out that basically dominated man to the point where it was like they were doing some horrible stuff. And
when you say horrible stuff, what's like
like eating them?
Oh, okay.
That's not good. Yeah, I wouldn't put that in the good camp.
Yeah, it's a bad thing.
That is a bad thing. Don't eat people.
Yeah, eating them like.
So we're just like livestock to them.
Basically.
Okay.
They rolled over us, including to the point where there's not just the Bible. There's specific documents that talk that they were messing with like what they didn't know, but at the time was like genetics, like screwing with it. Basically, as a nephew to God. And again, you guys believe what you want. I'm just telling you what I've researched. Basically, a nephew to God, I'm going to go ahead and just change genetics because whatever is pro you, I want to be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, like you get like crazy weird things like dinosaurs. I'm not saying that's the case. This is just a theory, so on and so forth, to the point where not only were they messing with the original creation, well, let's keep in mind that the Bible says Noah was perfect, quote unquote. All right, well, look up the Hebrew. It doesn't mean he was perfect because it clearly states in a few verses before that he was like a drunk and did horrible things, right?
Yeah.
Perfect in that context, if you look at the Hebrew, is like, it means like your inner being, like think of it as genetics. The only one that was like genetically pure to continue on. It got to the point, and again, you believe what you want, but it got to the point where he's like, nope, they've gone too far and they're basically going to ruin my creation. I'm sending a flood. Wipe them all out, including all the abominations that they did. And that's the theory, and it's not just Christianity or the Bible or the Jew. Take your pick, whatever. It's all over different civilizations. They all have giants. You look at the Greeks talking about gods coming down and impregnating women, and then you have like Hercules, like half god, half man. That's a nice story, but there's like, okay, well, hang on. Like, they all
has
have
to come
this.
from somewhere.
Correct.
Like, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, I get it. You have like the myths and the different things, but at some point,
They all have like monsters too.
Yeah,
Yep.
you don't just make
Isn't that
that
interesting?
up.
Where it's like they're all fighting crazy hydras, dragons.
Yeah.
Everything. Every mythology has that.
I mean, try to make something up off the top of your head.
But
you know what I mean?
What's
like,
fascinating
it's
to
all
me
based
is that
off of
like
something.
you have all these different mythologies from across the world, and it's like they're not communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
That was their. Well, that's what mainstream will tell you. That's correct. So how do they all have common origin stories? Like how do they all have it?
There's like a collective unconscious.
Well, that's also part of like the Earth. You have those land bridges and stuff, but pre-flood, right?
Sure.
Before like everything just gets
Pangea.
Yeah.
Love Pangea.
Right. I mean, that's mainstream.
Just throwing this out there. If you drain the oceans, what do you have?
Land.
Still correct.
Yeah.
It's not like Anyway, whatever.
Well, maybe they do the studies of like here's the Earth, and what happens if you just take out the ozone layer, and then you just watch like, oh look, here are all the land bridges again, and then it just burns and like this. Like okay, well,
the ocean's really deep though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Well,
so deep.
Imagine what it's hiding.
Imagine Imagine what's down there, man.
Yeah.
That's
the giants.
There's Atlantis.
Dude, people think Atlantis was like real, like one of those civilizations.
Yeah, 100% they do.
And I think there's a lot of, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of stuff on that.
But it's cool to think through that stuff where it's like you think electricity, your head immediately goes to the wires and the gadgets and everything. But it's like you can accomplish same things as we just learned through like things that you just wouldn't even like a normal person wouldn't. You can't comprehend that now,
right?
And it's just like
we're so used to our way,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you look at a lot of these megalithic structures, including the wall that I showed you from Peru, where you can clearly see what was like two different types of architecture, like clearly. And they'll tell you, like, we built on top of it. We didn't do it. And they're like, yeah, you did. You did
so,
it.
like, when you're talking, like, other pyramids around the world and things like that, because obviously they look, they're pyramids, but they are built different. They some are, shorter, taller, rounded, different things like that. Like, do they have similar, like aspects to them? Do they have similar, like, oh, this is how they did electricity, or this is why this is in this location, or things like that? Like, do they talk to each other? Do they, is there, do you have stuff for that, or is it just like?
They're very similar to the point where it's kind of odd. Like if, like we have different cultures, and we know, like you can see a Japanese structure compared to like a Greek structure. Like it's pretty obvious where these were built very, very similar.
Yeah.
Not exact, but similar.
But what would it be the same? Like, is it theorized as like, okay, this is electricity based?
It is theorized that in some form, I guess. The weird thing is there's and bear with me here, but there's an individual that was like, this is kind of odd, like how they're so set up strategically. He's like, I wonder if you draw 2 points based on the sides of pyramids, like where do they intersect with the world? And like they were like spot on with all these other megalithic structures. Like if you take like the Serpent Mound and you draw a straight line through that, it like goes directly through Stonehenge. And then if you take that and coordinate, it goes directly through the pyramids. And again, it's a theory, but L.A. Marzoli's the one who did all of this. And it was crazy. Like they intersect like exactly. So yeah, that's in theory.
So, I mean, when you're looking at building these pyramids, you're looking at the, like, advanced people, like, is it something simple enough, or is it just like, it's just a bunch of giants just moving these things?
Yeah, so...
Like, when you're talking giant, like, are you talking, like, I don't know, wrestler, like, Andre? Or are you talking, like, how big is a giant? Like, when you're looking at these bones, like, what's the size of those?
Sure. So it's weird. The Bible, again, just take it for, but it says there was giants in those days, and then after that, which means after the flood, because that's the context that it was in. The pre-flood giants, if you will, were extremely large and much different than the post-flood, and you see that in a lot of the bones that were found and collected. Just to give you an idea, and to show you that I'm not making this crap up, there were so many old school articles that just referenced it. It was an everyday thing until the Smithsonian got involved and they kind of put the kibosh to that. Now, if you find a bone and you don't report it, you could be federally effed. So I held myself because Sally. So like the minute, so like to the point where, my guys, my construction workers or anything like that, like they hate it because you hit it kind of often, and like instantly you got a call, and then the authorities come, and they holds up all the construction, what have you. But that used to not be the case. But then once they started seeing all these appear, they instantly stepped in, and that was the end of that. I mean, like New York Tribune, February 3rd, 1909, skeleton 15 feet high unearthed in Mexico. Scientific America, Ancient American Giants found August 14th, 1880, page 106. Urbia Union, February 16th, 1870, skeletons of a giant rare race found near Potosi. And on it goes. I mean, were so common, it was absurd. So we see this.
So if you're talking like up to 15, like that's, 3 times a quote unquote normal human. That's insane.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'll give you this I have so many.
I would definitely want to read that.
But yeah, like there's photographs, but again, like a lot of this got confiscated and completely buried. Completely, because I went against the narrative. Yeah, I mean, depending on how far you want to take it, I mean, there's references of the Romans coming across these things, and there's references of the Greeks coming across these things and finding these bones, and then they basically take these bones because they thought they were so freaking cool. They like put them on display, and like we're talking things, upward of like, above 15 feet, and it's all recorded, like it's in the recording. So much so that there's one document that was found in England, and it was, I forget the name of it. It's in this book, Ty, but it's not something I care to remember. But they found this document of this individual who went back and basically classified all these. That was like his job, so to speak. And we're talking way back, like ancient times, like the Romans and such. But he classified these things. Like that's how prevalent it was. So, it's something that they did a great job of basically not telling anybody, but it did happen. It's just our generation didn't hear of it because the people that did are all dead.
Yeah.
I mean, this got squashed rather quickly once the Smithsonian got involved in the Catholic Church, for that matter, but it got squashed rather quickly. And so like our generation, like
it's wild how like when we set our mind to it as a species, we can, multiple things. One, we can create pyramids or whatever, and like just do these crazy things. But man, can we also just completely suppress and change the narrative and just like in a way creepily easy.
Yes.
Right? Like even if it's just, I don't mention like TikTok or social media, but like even just turning a knob on social media or doing whatever, like you can influence it's wild.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because like I don't really care what the truth is. I just want the truth. I don't care. I mean, I can handle it, but we don't get it, John. We don't get the full story. We get whatever the narrative. And for the longest time, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, it's a scientist, it's a researcher, it's an archaeologist. They got to be right. And then, all the individuals that are like, so am I, like James Tour. That dude is like the best chemist on the planet. But because he goes against the grain, he is completely at Rice University. Look him up. He's amazing. Mm-hmm. Amazing videos on YouTube, so on and so forth. He has been completely blacklisted. And he's like literally like the best chemist. So I agree with you. It's a shame.
Yeah, it's like you have the free speech aspect, but not really.
Nope.
Like it's just like, yeah, it's free speech as long as you're with the status quo, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a narrative that goes against like what they want you to believe, it gets squashed rather quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was
that was awesome.
I want to read that book now. Yeah, like
what's the book called?
This one's here on
Is
the
this
trail.
Going to put us in danger or what?
No, I've had this for a long time, my friend. This thing has been like, look at all my bookmarks.
After you were telling me you were in the hospital, I'm like, oh my god, I shouldn't be hearing this. When you're laid up and you have nothing to do, like you just tend to read a lot. That's kind of like where this all relatively started.
That stuff's like that's fascinating,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, when
you
you're
don't learn it either. It's like I don't know. They kind of call you crazy when you start exploring things like that, right?
Absolutely.
But like,
I don't give two shits what someone calls. Like,
no, for sure.
But you are correct, John. You are 100% right.
Don't worry, I'll mark that one too. No, but like you can't. You can't. Yeah. People are so quick to, this is how it is, and it's like, until 20 years later, 30 years, like it's just like, and
we used to when people were sick, we used to cut them open,
right.
And have them bleed to get the bad stuff out, Tyler.
And just shock people.
How long ago was that? 200 years?
Yeah, like I don't know.
300, like
right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You think any doctors are doing that today? Yeah, I mean, a lot can change in a short amount of time.
We're listening to all the space stuff, and I know I like get super deep in my algorithm on YouTube's of just like,
oh, you love the space stuff.
I love it so
So
much.
do I.
But
So
it's
do I.
just
is that them getting you again? Like,
it has to be,
getting you
right?
trapped in that.
Yeah, it's just like, but that stuff's so cool and so unknown, and like even our oceans.
Well, I talk about
are
this all the
unknown.
time.
Like,
I talk about this all the time. Humans, we want the truth. We were born to want to find the truth.
I agree.
And Tyler's like, why does it matter? But I'm just like, it's inherent.
Yep.
I don't know why.
No,
but there's something in us that we will always innovate, and we will always search for the truth.
right.
It's just something that is so ingrained in us from a fundamental level.
But then you get to this thing of like, you know, and if you go biblically, it's like, okay, the flood happens because they were just getting too far. It was just wicked and you know, genetic experiments or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, and maybe it's just because we're in this day and age. It's just like, I feel like we're pretty wicked right now. Like it's just like, I feel like there's a lot of bad stuff going on. And it's like, at what point is there going to be this, like, you know, according to the Bible, not another flood. So then now what? Is that an asteroid? Is that a
big tornado?
Like, you know, is it AI? Like what, you know,
yeah.
what is it? And it's this thing of like, okay, again, with the civilizations, and if we're civilization 0, and it's like, okay, we need to start colonizing. Like, what is that thing that we have to overcome?
right.
Well,
To get to type 1, you're saying civilization.
Right. And you're
biblically
smirking.
speaking,
Yeah.
the end of days starts whenever the Jews got their land back. Once Jerusalem was reestablished by the Jews, the Bible says, mark your calendar, that's the start of the end. That happened on May 14th, 1948. That's when they got it back. And everything it says that is going to occur up to this point has
We're still
happened.
within like one generation of that, right? Give or take?
Yes, that is
With
correct.
42, yeah. 'Cause
That's crazy.
I guess my dad was
That's
born in
a-
45.
Right?
Yeah.
So you are correct, but it starts listing out like things that it's like, how the heck? The Ezekiel 38 war where it talks about an alliance between what is now Russia, Turkey, and Iran. All right, I have a picture up on my wall of those three shaking hands, and that happened, I think, like 2 or 3 years ago. Tells you exactly where it's going to occur, tells you how it's going to invade, and like they stacked up troops right there as we speak. Like weird stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't care what the truth is. I just want to know what it is, and like it just seems like it's so spot on so many different aspects that in the past we look at and be like, this is so stupid. It's not, it can't be true. Well, did you look into it? Did you truly look into it? 27% of the Bible is prophecy. Did you look into them? How many came true? How many didn't? How many are still waiting to be fulfilled? And it's like startling.
Yeah. I mean, I know Left Behind got a little like mainstream and weird and stuff, but like that stuff is fascinating.
Sure.
And like, you know, I always go back to like the Tower of Babel, right? And it's like the Bible story of like, you know, they're going to build a tower to heaven, and God was like, I'm knocking you down. It's like, okay, that's a very simplistic story that we were taught but like, what does that actually mean? You know, like, is it like, oh, they were getting close to something? It was, you know, like what? Like that's the kind of stuff that, like, you know, we always talk about, like, okay, you're going to heaven, ask all these questions, figure out all this stuff. I'm just like, man, there's a lot of stuff that's just like, you know, you give us the truth. Okay,
Right.
this is what we theorized. Now, what's the actual thing? And then how far off are we on? I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, it's a great story of a warning of a one world government system right there. It's like, nope, you guys are working way together, and to the point where it's going to take one individual to lead all nations into basically crap. Let's split it up.
Yeah, but
let's
then
divide you up.
That's the thing is, like, you can never, like, do you think we could ever become, and I keep going back to the civilization, but could we become a type 1 civilization?
Type 1 is space.
Yeah, like we're colonizing other
So
planets.
like if we colonize Mars, we're type 1.
Theoretically.
Gotcha.
Like
Okay.
actively. Not like it would be like an actual, like,
We can get
not
back and
just
forth.
like, it's just Elon and his kids. It's not just like a little
like
colony
So
thing.
you have to be able to sustain life there.
That's
then
the way
you have
that's
to
the
be
way
able to
I
get back and
understand it.
forth
Yeah,
and-
like it's just
and
kind of
it's
like
just
this
like-
free flowing, like
it's
we're
just
just
like
we're
another-
spreading out. Yeah.
Country almost.
Again, keep me honest. But I think that's what that is.
Sure.
But then it's
Okay.
like if you have this, it's like it's very hard to believe that you could ever truly have that without having some type of singular governmental thing. Like, I mean, you look at all the alien movies and all that, it's always like, okay, the humans are going against the Turians or whatever game you're doing.
Right.
And it's always like a species versus a species, not like Americans going out here, but then China's going, like, China conquers Venus and we're going for Mars, and they're, like, it's such a weird thing to think about.
I will say, though, in every representation, like science fiction, where you have like aliens and stuff, humans are always represented as like the wild card, which there's so many, like they're all so different.
Right.
Whereas the other species are always represented as like a very singular focus.
But we're also always late to the game. So it's like, it's one of those things.
Yeah,
of
true,
like,
true.
And not to get sacrilegious, because like I believe in God, and like that's how we were raised and stuff. But at some point you start thinking like, okay, God knocked the tower down because we were all like together. Then it's like, and this would actually be a really weird, cool science fiction thing, but like, is God our test? Is like, to become the next level, do you have to basically, quote unquote, defeat God or whatever that we consider God at that level? So be it the Nephilim or the giants or the whatever, like that could be like, why aren't people writing about that? That would be neat. I know I'm getting out there, and we'll dial it back in, but like that's the kind of stuff where it's like, it's just cool. And I know you're like not swearing and stuff, but like that kind of stuff would make my mom like really upset. So I'd probably just bleep all that out. I'm not saying like, I believe the Bible. I believe a lot of that stuff. It's just think. That's all. It's just like,
exactly.
Just figure. I don't know.
And like, read it. There's some really weird stuff in it. So read it. Like, I tell you what, guys, invite me back whenever.
Whenever you're available.
Let's discuss
every Friday.
Let's discuss aliens then.
I'd love to.
So would I.
I look, man. Aliens that's a whole other thing. But yeah,
coming great deception.
What if the pyramids are? What if I told you? Is that what they say?
Ancient Aliens was awesome for I think like 2 seasons because they really just went ham. They were like, here's every fact we could possibly cram into this thing, and it was like, oh, this like central meeting point of all these different civilizations. They have like stone heads of every type of civilization. Oh, and here's this like alien looking head of like, that's kind of weird, like. But then by like season 11, they're like scraping the bottom of the barrel and like going underneath. It's like, man, you're really reaching.
Stuff.
I want to believe, but man, that you're making it real tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't even need the pictures. Like the Paracas skulls in Peru, like flat out look so like weird, aliens, like flat out. And this individual actually went down to Peru with like a crew. He's like, hey, yes, we understand what cradle headboarding is. These individuals would take babies and like squish their heads in order to make them grow like that.
Yeah, and like wrap them and stuff.
What are they mimicking and why? Okay, interesting. Then they found, and it's all in here, buddy. But he's like, okay, well, there's certain skeletons that they're not human. Like they don't have the same, I forget what they call them, sutural plates. Like we have like 3 of them. I forget what exactly it is. This only had 2. They're like, oh, well, that can happen. That's called such and such. Yeah, I get it. But when that happens to a human being, you can still kind of see where that third plate is. These have none of it. Not to mention that they sent this skull to an individual he's like, I forget his name, but he's a doctor and he understands all these weird different types of diseases. Where the hole is for the spine to go up through and sit on is completely off. The eyes are completely off. They're way too big. And there's literally pictures of it. And he's like, I don't know what the hell that is, dude. Like, I don't know what you found, but it's not very fascinating stuff. And there's like one picture, which you guys can talk, but it literally shows like a picture of one of these skulls. And it's like, hey, here's what we think aliens look like. And it's like terrifying because it's like the exact same.
Well, it gets to the point too where like a lot of the aliens are like humanoid and all this other stuff. So that you just start like thinking like, I think one of the RP, like we have like a little running RPG idea tally. Now that Baldur's Gate out, I feel like that's just
we're doomed.
But like one of it was like, okay, what if the Tower of Babel was a way to get into space. And then they're starting to colonize other places and different things like that. And he crushes it down because like, oh, you're outside of my playground. Him being like God or the, whatever. And it's like, and then they start coming back to Earth and start like helping whatever and different things like that. I mean, I know we talked about the pyramids and like what they could do, but again, like purpose wise, like how cool would it be if that's like, okay, we got to escape this flood thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, let's figure something out, So it's like, I don't know. That stuff's just fascinating.
No, I agree. I mean, there's so much more than what we are led on to believe, and then it's just startling how a lot of their theories and ideas completely fall apart. And it's like no one says anything, or if they do, they're instantly crushed. And
it's crazy because I feel like it can go two ways. Either we're even underestimating ancient people and what they could do, and we would still be just minds absolutely blown, or we would be like extremely underwhelmed. One of those two, right? Like either like we're expecting all these things and all these cool things, be like, no, there's actually just like there's a stack of these blocks basically already done, and we just kind of chipped away at them.
They got so lucky that it was where it was.
There's just a stack of blocks, and we just I don't know. Anyway,
I will say it's possible because think about it. Like if you think about the odds that the Earth was able to form and life was able to cultivate on what we only know is one planet thus far. Yeah, that's pretty unlikely.
I still love, dude, quantum theory and just going into that and multiple like infinite universes. The idea that it's like you can't comprehend infinite. Like that's the thing is you cannot comprehend just infinity.
Right.
And that alone
we can.
is
There
was this is getting way off track, and I know we were going a long time. So we had a TikTok, which I don't know why I'm on TikTok, so I gotta stop doing. But one of the fascinating ones was like if you take like the deck of cards and you like how many options there are with like a deck of cards, and if you like string it all out, it's like you could take you take one thimble of water out of the ocean every 1,000 years and put it aside or whatever and just keep doing it. And once that ocean's dry, fill it back up and do that 1 billion times. And then you'll be like 50% of the way through like whatever that thing was. Like it's crazy. I have to find that video. But like that kind of stuff, like we can't comprehend that, much less any of, this stuff. And like, so it's crazy. I think we're very dumb.
I mean, it's
compared to, just compared to them. Like we can't do it now. We can't build a pyramid now. Versus 13,000 plus years ago. Like that's what.
And that's one example of multiple in the world that are just like the pyramids are awesome, but oh my gosh, that wall in Peru is like it's on my bucket list. It's unbelievable. I mean, a person looks like a little dot next to this. No mortar, can't fit a human hair between it. It looks like they were smushed together. It's truly unbelievable.
Yeah, man.
And just while you were talking, like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that picture. It's like,
that's an alien.
That's weird.
An alien head.
That's weird. And they're so common down there. Like literally, they like hand them out to tourists. It's like it's that bad just for money. It's like that's how many of those weird. Well, you'll see. I'll give this to you, but.
Well, that was a lot.
I love this.
That was
stuff.
a lot.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming on, Justin.
God,
that was awesome.
Is my honor to be with such fine gentlemen. And Johnny,
thanks.
Dude, you like stole my heart whenever you got offended on my behalf and Tyler said I was dead. I'm like, I love this guy.
I was freaking out.
I truly love this guy. But no, guys, I mean it. Like, thank you so much. I love coming on, love hanging out with you, and like I said,
open invitation.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
A lot of fun.
Talk about aliens.
Yeah, we'll do it.
It'll scare the heck out of me. That's the thing. We'll do it. Is I'm terrified. Like with all the lights out in this apartment, and I go like, see, Chelsea just did that. My heart just like I was pointing, and I just see like the shadow and stuff, and my heart just went in my chest. I always feel like as I'm walking from the bathroom there, like going into bed, and I'm like, if I turn around right now, there is going to be a slender alien figure.
You just give me chills.
I know, but that is just
what scares me more is like when he's going down the list of oh, these people are getting close to the truth and they all die.
Yeah,
like the government
that's
scares
true.
me more.
Fair.
We could get
Suits
into
are gonna
that
come to
too.
my house
I studied
in the
that
middle
for
of the night.
years, and it's
It's
unreal.
like, bro, what? Anyways,
Anyway,
we could
sorry.
talk about
Yep.
this forever, but thank you again for coming on,
Buddy,
Justin.
my
That was
pleasure.
so much
Thank
fun.
you. Yep.
Yeah, check us out. Couchcompany.games. All our links are there. Yeah, pretty much everything. We have a TikTok now.
I don't. Yeah, we're gonna. There's gonna be so many clips. Like
Yeah,
that. Gotta
dude.
look
Yeah.
at. Also, we upgraded our AI image generator. I don't know if you saw the recent artwork, but if you go from like, I don't know, maybe like the past like 50 episodes, whenever I started doing AI, and they were pretty jank looking.
Yep.
It upgraded. So like, if you look at like maybe the past like 10, I actually went back and redid them all. And like the quality is
Pretty
like
good.
it's getting kind of scary. Like I already
awesome.
have this one like set and ready to go.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right. Well, if you made it this far, we truly appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, because that was awesome. But yeah, check us out next week. Same time, same place.
I don't know how we follow this up.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on the couch. Peace.